We're calling to order. This is the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for January 22nd, excuse me. This is the 11 a.m. docket. The first item on the docket is Tagaris Stoffel and, oh gosh, Desta, Danny's Convenience Store and Wine Liquor LLC, Danny's Beer and Wine. This is at 2327 Pennsylvania Avenue. This is a Class D, beer, wine, and liquor, and an application for transfer of ownership. Please come forward.
Everybody here?
Yes, they are.
The one for, yes, right there.
All right, folks.
No, for,
Which one are you?
Mr. Dafa.
Okay. Swear the witnesses.
Raise your right hands, guys. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, now who is the current owner?
Daniel.
Is he here, this person here?
No, he had court appointment on Ocean City today.
Both licensees have to be here. Absolutely. That's a new rule. Both the person owning the license and the person receiving it. Who's the person getting the license?
both of them.
You are.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to enforce this rule. This time, we're going to postpone it. And the next time, we're going to have some kind of a fine or punishment. Because the rule has been published, starting the 15th of January, that licensees have to be present on any issue before the liquor board. So when's the next time?
I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Desta is, no, he wasn't. I thought he was one of the returning. The next one can be February 5th.
February 5th, postponed to then. Make sure everybody's here.
Like both of them, they have to be here?
At least one of the other licensees.
We have a licensee who is getting the license and the licensee who is transferring it from their possession. Both sides.
We apologize for today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, call the next case. That's postponed, you said, correct?
Yes. Young Il Jong, King John Lee, Jin Su Corporation, trade name Old Clubhouse. This is at 1807-11 Baker Street. This is a Class BD7, beer, wine, and liquor, an application for transfer of ownership.
All right, case postponed in advance. Call the next case. That case is postponed.
Yes, this one has been postponed.
All right. Call the next one.
The next one was David Carrillo and Themis Mexican Food. This one also was postponed. This is a Class B.
No, the Calvert Street.
I'm going to read the next one. Is James Schaefer and Albert Schaefer, Schaefer Investments, LLC, trade name Agrossi Cafe. That's at 5 North Calvert, a Class B, beer, wine, and liquor license. Application for a new license under BWL license provisions under 2P requiring $700,000 in capital investment in restaurant fixtures and facilities and a seating capacity exceeding 75 people and a request for off-premises catering.
All right, your appearance, please.
Good morning, Caroline Hecker and Weston Williams and Rosenberg Martin Greenberg on behalf of the applicant, and I'm joined by Jay and James Schaefer, who are the two licensee applicants. Mr. Schaefer, the younger, James Schaefer, is the Baltimore City resident taxpayer licensee.
Swear all the witnesses.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, your case.
Thank you. With your permission, I'd like to proceed by way of the
Go ahead.
This is an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor license for a first floor space in the Muncie Building and a former roly-poly space at 5 North Calvert Street. As Ms. Bailey Hedgepeth mentioned, the requirements are that the restaurant have 75 seats, a capital of $700,000, and at least 65% of the gross daily receipts from the sale of food. The applicant is Schaefer Investment Group, LLC, trading as Argosy Cafe, and the two licensees are Mr. Jay Schaefer and Mr. James Schaefer, father and son duo. They together own the business. Their plan is to provide downtown with better breakfast, lunch, and dinner options. The cafe will serve mid-Atlantic cuisine with a little bit of a twist. They'll have grab-and-go soups, salads, and sandwiches for lunch, and they'll offer small plates, craft cocktails, beer, and wine in the evenings. Their small plates will include charcuterie and oysters, and Mr. Schaefer, the elder, now retired, formerly owned and operated Schaefer City Oyster Bar and Grill in New York City, which was named one of the top oyster bars in the world by Travel and Leisure magazine. Mr. Williams had handed out a folder that has some exhibits in it for your review. One of the exhibits is an excerpt from the Travel and Leisure magazine website that shows the Schaefer City Oyster Bar and Grill in New York. There's also a copy of their conceptual,
What was the building before?
the Muncie, where the restaurant is right now?
Yes.
It used to be Roly Poly. It was a little deli and sandwich shop.
Not the old drugstore on the corner.
If
No.
it was a drugstore, that was before my time. It was most recently Roly Poly. It's next to, it's on the, I guess it's the northwest corner of the block at Calvert and Fayette. There's an M&T Bank on the
Well, it's an odd
Fayette
number.
Street.
It looks like the northeast one.
It's northeast.
Yes. Yes, the northeast corner of the intersection. I don't
Go
know
ahead, I
if there
didn't
was a
mean to
drugstore there.
interrupt you.
I'm trying to think if there was ever a drugstore there, but
It's
I-
across from the courthouse, Your Honor.
it is across from the
There's a courthouse on one corner, there's
Mhm.
the, sort of the restaurant where you go, you buy your
Well, the
food by the
courthouse
pound.
is at, of course,
Used to be the Muncie
Fayette
building.
Fayette
There used to
Street.
be a
This is
bank and
down
all
the
that
street
stuff.
from it, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we lost our moment.
All right, so go ahead with your presentation.
In the file that I handed out, you'll see there's a floor plan that shows that there are 76 seats plus 10 seats at the bar, so there are 86 seats total, but the 76 seats meets the minimum 75-seat requirement. Their proposed hours of operation are 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. They're not intending to serve alcoholic beverages at breakfast or lunch. Those would only be available in the afternoon, evening hours. And let's see, there are some photographs in the file that show the building that maybe would be illustrative in terms of locating exactly where they are. The building was originally owned by Frank Muncie. It was where the Baltimore News was located. And then subsequently was the Equitable Trust Company, which installed these marble and brass teller windows in that first floor space, which are being restored as part of this, this project to open the new restaurant. And that is a sizable portion of their capital investment. You'll see in the file there's a valuation from Jonathan Melnick Auctioneers, which demonstrates a capital investment of $797,000 in this location.
How does he reach that figure?
A combination of the construction costs and the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that are installed in the restaurant. It's itemized in the valuation document that's in there. Like I said, a sizable portion is restoration of the marble and the brass fixtures that are in the existing space right now. They're installing a lot of new kitchen equipment. They have some pretty state-of-the-art coffee equipment that they're installing, and a large portion of it is a new hood that needs to be installed as well, in addition to the ordinary, restaurant furniture, fixtures, smallwares.
Do you have any testimony? Or are you submitting that?
I'm submitting that as testimony. Mr. Schaefer could certainly testify.
Well, we'll find out.
If you need more detail. They're not planning to offer live entertainment at this location. The two Mr. Schaefers and 3 additional managers will manage the restaurant. Their policy is to card all patrons who order alcoholic beverages regardless of their age. They do not anticipate that the 65% requirement for their average daily receipts being from the sale of food will be a problem. This is primarily a restaurant, and the alcoholic beverages will merely serve to complement that menu. We do believe that there's a need for a new Class B license at this location. This is right in the center of downtown. There's a bunch of businesses downtown, and there's also a growing residential community that there really aren't a lot of places that are available in the evening hours right now, and this will add to the availability, I hesitate to say the nightlife scene, they're only open till 11 o'clock, but the dinner hour scene and the happy hour scene for downtown. And the ability to serve alcoholic beverages in conjunction with the restaurant really adds an amenity to the city and increases the restaurant's appeal to patrons and customers. There's a petition in the file as well, which is signed by 37 people. Actually, I think we got 3 additional signatures, so now we're up to 40 at the last minute. Residents of the Muncie building who support the issuance of a Class B liquor license for the new restaurant space. And we have met with the Downtown Partnership to share our plans. Mr. Yeager is here, and he can testify as to their support for the application as well. Both Mr. Schaefers have reviewed the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board, and they will agree to abide by them. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions, commissioners?
None?
So I'm looking at the financial breakdown provided by Mr. Melnick, and he gives a valuation of $377,000 for the square footage, $120,000 to replace the hood system. Is that something that's taking place now, or is that part of the?
It's It hasn't been done yet, but it is as part of this project.
Okay, and then there's the architectural adornments, is that existing?
It's restoration of existing features in the building.
So it's gonna cost those dollars to restore what's already there?
I
Or is that
believe-
his valuation of what is there?
I believe that's the valuation of the restored features, once the restoration work is completed.
All right, and then the kitchen equipment, is that new
It is new.
equipment? And then the dining room furniture, is that new or existing?
It is new.
All right, so then there's space improvements, that's upgrades to bathrooms, floors, additional lighting, that's ongoing?
Yes, it's construction work.
All right, so as I read this, I don't think you get credit or you don't include in the valuation the square footage. That's not an investment. That, to me, is not an investment. I think you do get valuation or credit for the $120,000 to replace the hood system. I don't understand why you would get include in your valuation and that we should recognize the architectural adornments. I've been in that space, and everything that's listed here, I think already exists. And I don't think you get credit for what's already there. And if there's a cost to restore it, then we should see the restored cost, not the value once it's been restored, but what is the cost of restoring? So to the extent that, furnishings, et cetera, are already present, that's not an investment.
I believe that that's all included in their lease value and what they're paying for the space, that is part of their investment, their price that they're paying.
What is the price of the lease?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can defer to the Schaefers.
It's $4,000 a month for 10 years.
Kind of has a small escalation every 2 years, implements to offset.
You want them sworn?
I think they should be
Swear the
sworn.
witnesses.
We're sworn at the beginning.
Swear the witnesses.
Already been sworn.
You already been sworn?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. So, the lease is, go ahead with your,
So the lease is $4,000 a month?
It's approximately $4,000 a month for 10 years plus a 5-year option.
it comes to what? Dollars and cents wise, what's that come to?
Total for the 10 years
Mm-hmm.
is just shy of $700,000.
But is that an investment, or is that the cost of doing business? I don't,
I'm sorry. The question was about the lease. That's all I answered, was what we're paying for the lease. That's not part of anything that has to do with question mark here. The situation here is that the existing building has been covered inside this space with linoleum and all sorts of other things. Destroyed what was a magnificent, or covered up what was a magnificent space. And we're just bringing it back to what it looked like in the 1920s by restoring all of this and making it look era correct for the neighborhood, the building, and what goes on, downtown.
And if they were buying a new building, that cost would certainly be included in their capital investment.
actually, I don't think it would. It would not, under the law. The cost of the building is not included. It's what's invested into the interior. The exterior is not included.
Even that being the case, then the lease contemplates all of these interior upgrades that they're doing. And they're paying a premium for the space because it has these historic characteristics that they're able to restore and utilize.
The lease is not an investment. The lease is the lease, and that's over 10 years, and we need to see the $700,000 investment up front before you get the license, not 10 years down the road after you've made that financial investment. That's why I'm having trouble with this.
I think the reason that, I know the reason that we included the interior adornments is because if we were to go in to reach that $700,000 and pull all of that out, all that marble that has a historical value to not only the building but the city, we could reach that $700,000 easily and put in new adornments that are either similar to what is already there
But
or...
you haven't done it. But you haven't
But
done it.
Because we want to
And you-
save the integrity of the building.
And that's honorable and laudable, but in terms of getting a liquor license under this law, I don't think you need it. I think at most you have investment of $209,250, and that's recognizing the $120,000 to replace the hood system. It's $62,500 for space improvements, $26,750 for miscellaneous dining and office. I guess that's furniture. Oh, wait a second. You would get the 90. You're getting new kitchen equipment, right?
Yes.
So that's 93,350, and then you're doing new dining room furniture, so that's 22,2. So 3, 6, 8, 9, 12, 4, 10, 12. I see $324,800.
Well, I think if I can return to the issue of the historic elements that are in there, I think, as what Mr. Schaefer is saying, is if they were to pull them out and put them back in or put something similar back in. But the intent.
But that's what bothers me with not actually spending any money, not actually making the investment. And under this law, it requires you to make $700,000 in capital investment in the restaurant. And I interpret that to mean new money, not just that you walk around and you put a tag on what's already there and say, okay, that's how we get, that's my trouble. And we've had this gymnastics before, and I haven't seen anything that persuades me to take a different position.
I think she's correct.
In that case, I guess I'd like to let Mr. Yeager say his piece, but I might request that the hearing be continued so that we can revisit our financial submittal. And
if there were any legislative history that explains this rule, if there were any case law, believe me, I mean, I love, your idea. And I used to eat at roly-poly all the time, and that's the disadvantage because I know what's already there. I mean, that's where I would go to lunch. But it's not that I want to be right. I would rather be wrong and have you go forward and get to do what you want to do. But I just don't see it happening in the law.
I guess to respond to your comment about the legislative history, I mean, the intent was, I mean, as you know, to make it so that in order to get a new liquor license for economic development purposes, that there would be an investment in a new space, so that you're not giving corner stores and whatnot the licenses. And
that's, I'm hung up on the words new and investment.
Well, in that case, I'd like to request that the hearing be continued so that we can revisit this issue.
How long do you need?
2 weeks?
Is that enough?
Do you think that,
How about the 12th? Because then my 5th is already filling up. Is that okay?
is that okay?
That should be fine.
What was the date? I couldn't hear you.
The 12th.
February 12th?
February 12th. All right, postponed till February 12th.
Thank you.
Continued. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. May I think I have the next case, but can I have a moment?
Yes, Evan.
Sure.
Let's skip to the next one.
The next one is her.
Can
She
you
has the
skip?
next one as well.
Do you want me to go to the last one? I
Yeah.
can skip forward.
What's the next date?
The next one is her. Do you want me to go to the last case? I can go to the last case on the docket, which is Charles Dowring and Elisa Dowring and John Dowring, Penny Black.
Okay, Leah, sorry. I didn't know you were calling it.
Okay, I can recall it again. Charles Dowring, Elisa Dowring, John Dowring, Penny Black, Baltimore, Inc. Trade name is John Stevens, 1800 Thames Street. This is the Class BB7 beer, wine, and liquor. A transfer of ownership.
Who are you, sir?
Charles Deering.
Sorry. Do you have
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Previs on behalf of the applicants. To my immediate right is Mr. Charles Deering. To his right is his son, John Deering, and his daughter, Eliza Deering.
Now, who's the licensee?
The outgoing licensee is Mr. Charles Deering.
Who's the incoming?
These three.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Going to have testimony?
If I could proceed by way of a proffer, and each of the licensees is available for any follow-up questions that the board may have. Your Honor, first of all, I would like to note an amendment to the application. The application indicates the correct corporate name of Penny Black Baltimore, Inc. the application shows the trade name is John Stephen, which is the former trade name, and the Deerings have decided that they want to change their trade name to Penny Black.
Yeah, I knew John Stevens. He's still on?
Mr. Ward, we met years ago.
Yes.
At Utah Place.
That's what I thought. That was that battle in the, let me think, that would be the 1700 block or 1600 block?
Yeah.
Over the apartment house and the tearing down of the buildings. I think John Stevens lived over there then.
No, Charles Deering.
You lived there.
There is no John Stevens.
Okay, then he just used that, you just used
Everybody
that.
thought that was his name, but it's actually Charles.
That's why I kept looking at you
John
when you
Stephen is my
came in,
son.
because I recognized you, but I couldn't place it.
John Stephen is my older son's teddy bear, which the bar was named after his teddy bear. And my ex-wife, Anne Marie Vitale, was a tenant of yours on Linden Avenue many, many years ago. Small world.
Urban Renewal tore down 500 historic houses, the biggest disgrace we've ever had. Relocated 25,000 people, including me. And I had the Governor Warfield mansion,
Yeah.
where his niece used to visit him, the Duchess of Windsor, of course. And many, many other weddings took place there before, of course, it became apartment house, and then I bought it. But the John Stevens Bar became famous.
Yes, it did.
Right on the corner of, that would be northeast corner of Ann Street and Thames.
Yes, sir.
And it's been a place that people have gone to all through the years. But don't let me interrupt your presentation.
This is interesting history.
Perfect. What I was gonna say, Your Honor. Ms. Mazepust and myself were reminiscing, we remember before this was John Stevens in 1977, when it was Zeppe's 5-Point Bar, where all the longshoremen and the stevedores.
Doors would go, and the place would be jam-packed at 6 in the morning, having a beer before they went off to work.
Right across the street, what was her name?
Miss Irene,
Miss Irene and
Griffiths.
her husband. I
Yep,
knew him.
Mr. Benny.
But I have to tell you a story. I'm gonna, one of the privileges of being chairman.
Do we have to listen?
No, you know, everybody can be excused.
You tell great stories, I want to hear it.
But right up the block on the far corner, you know where I mean? All of the bar on the far corner of your block,
Yes,
up at the next corner.
yeah.
Dolars?
Huh?
Currently, Wharf
On
Rat
Thames
used
or
to
on
be,
Ann?
Dol-
Right on Ann Street.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Right on Ann.
Noted.
right.
You can still need to speak one at a time.
You don't have to be on the record here.
Well, I am.
Yeah,
Can
this,
I go off the record?
no, not for
You want
these
to be on-
stories.
okay. Anyway, you walk up the block on the right-hand side, exactly where Stevens is, all the way at the corner, and there was an existing bar there, and the person wanted to restore historically the building down to the last detail. But next door to him, or maybe maybe a house or two down, there was a lady who was absolutely opposed to this business. And when he went to restore it historically, he had everybody behind him, Lou Fisher and all these people who were famous down in that area for the restoration of Fells Point, all testified on behalf of the bar. He came up in front of me as a circuit court judge, and she was technically correct that the bar had extended beyond its historic boundaries, and they were restoring things that had nothing to do with the original building, and she pointed this out. And it went before the Historic Commission, CHAP, and they turned it down. And then it came before me. Well, I was confronted with all this testimony of the neighborhood being totally and utterly improved by what was happening there. And we only had one person against it, everybody else was for it. So I went into a long and involved decision, which I did not think would stand up, but I nevertheless had a written decision. And then it went on to appeal to Court of Special Appeals. And to my astonishment, the Court of Special Appeals upheld me, and they went into a long and involved explanation as why they thought it passed too. And that was the end of the story. So you see, you never know.
Kier Hellberg.
Huh?
Kier Hellberg and
That's what it
Celia
was.
Ives.
Here, yeah.
Celia Ives on the opposite side.
Well, he was a little crazy too.
He still is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is he still around?
He might be, but he was in England.
I think he went down south after that, and he abandoned that bar. didn't he?
No, he went to England,
Went to England?
opened up a Dixie Pig over in England,
Oh, my goodness.
which is a, what do you call this? Pork barbecue place.
Did you ever hear about the fire over on St. Paul Street, that somebody set his van on fire? When the gasoline prices were too high, so he had huge drums of gas in his car to save money for gas. And somebody didn't like him, set the whole place on fire.
That could have been a lot of people.
I mean, that's back in the old days when, and the person who did it, I won't tell you the name, attacked a bar down on Thames Street with, dressed in the uniform of a Revolutionary War soldier with a wooden sword. And he rushed into the bar and attacked the bar, and they threw him out. And so he insisted on getting in there, and he did get in, and the police came and arrested him. And I was the defense counsel in that particular case. He also, I have to say, I think was suspected of having set the gasoline on fire. But anyway, so you see, Baltimore was a wild town in those days, but it was, and it all concerned this area. Anyway, let's get back to this case.
Thank you, Your Honor. No, I didn't mean it that way. I love history. I started in
Why don't you take
when
the
I was 12
Obama
years
approach?
old in 1971.
Never mind.
In any event, the current licensee, well, let me back, I'll start from.
First of all, let me ask a question. Is there any opposition?
No, Your Honor, we have a memorandum.
And what did she proffer her testimony?
The basic MOU, Your Honor, is that the licensee will obey all laws. The two specific areas are, we are ensuring that there will be no outdoor speakers, and that the previously approved outdoor table service will be 4 tables on the Thames Street side and 2 tables on the Ann Street side.
Are they existing?
Yes, sir. The prior, Mr. Deering has remained the landlord and remained as a real estate owner, the licensee is qualified, but he is going back in with his wife and his 2 kids who live on the 2nd floor, and they are renovating. There was substantial damage to the place. They are renovating and they are putting it back the way it was. And it will be the operation that's been there since everybody knows since 1976. So we're just clarifying with the community associations both that the outdoor table service will be as designed and that there will be no outdoor speakers.
I remember in that Utah Place episode, Wally Orlitzky bought the corner house. Do you remember that? Right where the apartment house is.
Yeah. Yes,
Right on
I
the
did.
corner. They got permission to put a parking lot in between. They tore one house there.
Right.
All right, any questions, commissioners?
No, sir.
Just one, what is the current status of the license that's being transferred?
The existing entity, John Stephen Ltd., was in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That was converted to a Chapter 7. The establishment closed on August 7 of 2014. Mr. Deering has executed a contract with the bankruptcy trustee to purchase whatever was not taken out of there in addition to the license. And you expect to be able to complete renovations by when, Mr. Deering?
We're hoping March 1st.
By March 1st.
Okay, so there's no issue
N-
about
No, Your Honor.
the expiration of the license, and we're good there, okay.
Any other questions?
Just one comment, with all the work that you have identified or alluded to that needs to be done at this location, you're going to do all this work under permits.
Yes, sir, with contractors.
All right.
All right, no other questions? Vote yes.
Is-
Yes.
I'm sorry. Is the MOU in the file? I have a copy.
We do
Thank
have
you
the
very
MOU.
much.
You haven't read it, but I vote yes.
All right, you have our decision.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you, Ms. Massapos. It's been a while.
It has, it's nice to come for something that we're all
Without-
happy about.
Yes, yes.
Yep, no, we're going to get that right
Oh,
here.
okay, thank you, excuse me.
Yes.
Are you ready?
All right, it's good to see you.
Call the next case.
1 second, sir, can I have 1 second, sorry.
This is John Stevens.
Where did this come from?
That is. I
That's for
don't-
the case that was, it's already done. The
That's
first
the
case that
previous
you
case.
continued, I think.
It's continued, the
Let me see.
Yeah,
I think this might be the continued case.
that is.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Send
hand
that
that down
to
to
you.
Michelle.
I'm
This
sorry.
goes with the continued,
Yes.
excuse me,
And
pile.
the credit city file. I've got a copy.
All right, I'll read the next one.
Mhm.
We're gonna go back to Arena Stein. This is at Alma's Arepa Bar, LLC, Alma's Cocina Latina, that is at 2400 Boston Street, Suite 108. This is a Class B, beer, wine, and liquor, an application for a new Class B under the provisions of 2B 6-201D7, $500,000 in capital investment in restaurant fixtures, facilities, and seating capacity of a minimum of 75 people, and a request for outdoor table service.
All right, enter your appearance.
Good morning, Caroline Hecker and Justin Williams, Rosenberg, Martin Greenberg on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined by Irina Stein, who's the licensee applicant, and Mark Demchak, her husband and business partner, who's also present this
We
morning.
have the seller here too?
It's a new license, it's not
New
a
license,
transfer.
Okay. So, you go present your case. You want,
Would you like to swear the witnesses, or,
Hmm?
would you like to swear the witnesses, or should I? I'm happy to proceed by way of a proffer.
Go ahead with your proffer.
Thank you. As you know, this is an application for a new Class B restaurant license where the requirements are 75 seats, a capital investment of $500,000, and at least 51% of the gross daily receipts from the sale of food. The applicant is Alma Arepa Bar LLC, trading as Alma Cocina Latina. It's operated by Irina Stein, who is present here this morning. She is the sole licensee applicant. She's a Baltimore City resident and taxpayer. The new restaurant, it will provide Latin American cuisine with a Venezuelan focus. The primary offering will be arepas, which are flatbreads made of a ground maize dough, and Venezuelan comfort food. They're bringing in 2 chefs who were born in Venezuela and trained in Spain, who will be responsible for the kitchen operations. The restaurant will also be a green and sustainable restaurant. They'll offer food from local farms and have the food waste be composted. The restaurant will also include a 26-foot bar and will feature wines from South America, as well as artisanal cocktail menus featuring rum and other liquors from Latin America. The construction of the restaurant's underway. They're hoping to open this spring, and it will create approximately 25 to 30 full and part-time jobs. In the file that Mr. Williams handed out, you'll see there's an article about the new restaurant from the Baltimore Business Journal from earlier this week, as well as a copy of their conceptual menu. And their plan in terms of the restaurant concept is also to have sort of a very homey feel. They're going to maintain indoor plants as well inside that'll give it more of a Latin American flavor indoors. The seating plan is also included in your file. You'll see that there are 83 seats in the dining room as well as 18 seats at the bar. They will have capacity for 20 to 24 outdoor seats. Outdoor seating is permitted by right within the Can Company planned unit development. Their hours of operation, Monday through Wednesday, are 11 a.m. to 9:30 p.m., but they'll be closed from 2 p.m. to 4:30. Thursday and Friday, they'll be open from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., also closed from 2 to 4:30. Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The licensed premises will be on the first floor of a space in the Can Company on Boston Street that was formerly occupied by Soyambo Grill. There are some photographs in the file of the existing site. As I mentioned, outdoor seating is permitted by right within the Can Company. There is a $535,000 capital investment in this location. A copy of the budget is included in the file, and just to dive into that for a moment, there's over $400,000 in construction costs because the prior space had to be completely gutted. The former restaurant use was a sort of Mongolian grill type. It was not at all similar in terms of facilities, indoor facilities, to what's currently proposed. So there are significant demolition and reconstruction costs indoors, as well as the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which are outlined in the exhibit contained in the file that we've submitted. Ms. Stein has experience operating other restaurants in Baltimore City. She has 2 restaurants on the Johns Hopkins University campus, Alchemia and Azafran. Neither one of those has liquor licenses, but she is familiar with the rules and regulations of the Baltimore City Liquor Board and would agree to abide by them. She and Ms. Beth Ann Wilson will operate the restaurant. They'll manage the restaurant, and both will take the alcoholic beverages safety training course. Their policy is to card anyone who appears to be under 30 years old. And because the main focus of the restaurant really is their food, they really don't expect to have a problem meeting the 51% requirement for average daily receipts. We do feel that there is a need for a new Class B restaurant license at this location. This will provide an amenity to residents of Canton and the city. It's a unique, high-quality, healthy dining alternative. There really is nothing similar in Baltimore. We're not aware of there being any other Venezuelan restaurants. We expect it to be very well received. And we think it really will be an asset to the neighborhood. We've shared our plans with the Canton Community Association, and they support the application. There's a letter of support from them in your file. As I mentioned, Ms. Stein is familiar with the rules and regulations of the Liquor Board, and she would agree to abide by them. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
I have no questions.
No other questions?
I didn't see
I'm
the,
just trying to survive.
I didn't see the Canton letter of support.
It's in there.
Is that in the back of the folder? Oh, okay, I recognize the logo. Okay,
Last
cool,
one.
good. Thank you.
You okay on everything?
Yeah, I am, Your Honor.
All right.
Yes.
Time for voting? Yes.
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 You have our decision.
Thank you.
Chairman, I failed to.
Carolyn, if she could speak with, or someone.
You okay?
No, I'm not okay.
It's our
Is that for
I
the
got
new?
Actually, no, there's
Isn't
one
linked
that
to
you did not
bronchitis
get in
now.
the docket.
Yeah,
Partial
it's just-
extension, it's on the second page.
All messed up, man.
And that's why you don't have it, that's why I'm passing it out to you. There you go. It's in front of you right now, so it's right in front of
It's,
you. You got one right there.
The last item is hardship extension. It's Virginia, he has a copy of it.
No, she doesn't.
Okay. It's Virginia Fox Venture Corp. Trade name is Tommy's Downtown Tavern. This is a request for hardship extension for Class BD7 beer wine liquor, under extensions 2B, 10, 504D.
For $100, that's it.
You don't have the names of the licensees or anybody.
It's, the names are, it's on the second page of your docket. It's the, sorry, it's right here. There wasn't a cover sheet. I realized that it was missing, so it's Virginia Fox. I just went that into the record. And
Is this the only one you have?
you can have that, sir. It's yours.
Go ahead, sir.
Norman J. Kanaski, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the Secure Credit on behalf of the request for hardship extension.
All right. Do you want sworn testimony or want to present it?
I don't know whether this lady, you're here opposing or you're?
No, I need the hardship.
You're Ms. Fox?
I am.
Yeah.
So you got your two licensees here?
Well, there's one, Mr. Boozer had requested a hardship extension on behalf of the licensees. In the meantime, the secured creditor had filed the renewal application on behalf of the secured party and went to circuit court and wound up getting a judgment against the prior. There was never a hardship hearing for the date after the expiration of the license on April 30th. So this is the reason for the hearing at this point, is to request the hardship in order so the license can be disposed of, so the current licensee can get credit for any amount that was sold for against the judgment, correct? Okay. And that would give them a date to April 25th of 2015 if the hardship extension were granted.
So that's the only issue here today?
Okay. Mhm.
Okay. Questions, Commissioners?
What is the hardship?
Hardship is that they'd be able to get a map for the license so that the current licensee would get credit against the judgment that was gotten by the secured creditor here. It's $100-something thousand judgment.
Couple of
Right.
I'm sorry, what was that?
$32,000?
It was a $132,000 judgment, of which if the license were sold for 35, 45, whatever it would be, the current licensees would get a credit for it. That's what we're requesting.
So the only issue here is the hardship extension.
And if there was the first request, then we get us to April 25th, 2015. That'd be the 360th day.
And this was a foreclosure?
What happens foreclosure on a secured promissory note. And went to circuit court to get the judgment, and Judge Nance and Judge DePietro granted the judgments.
When was that?
I think it was October.
Yeah.
It was October this year. The final judgment was October.
That's the thing, because we stood in front of that judge, myself and my mother, who is the owner on the license, and we stood in front of this judge, on September, And then I had absolutely no contact with my lawyer since that date when he was supposed to get back to me until I received this to show up here today last week.
Excuse me for a second. If she's
Sorry.
going to testify, you need to swear in.
Yeah, swear the witnesses.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Go ahead.
We would like the hardship as well.
Did you confirm all your prior statements as sworn testimony?
Yes, I can.
Everything you've already said?
Yes.
All right, and now your additional testimony is what?
We are asking for the hardship as well, but if you're asking for it from the initial date that Frank Boozer had actually put that in, I'm not exactly sure when that will give us that extension to.
Well, hardship extended 180 days, so we go back to the time it was requested.
So I'm not exactly sure when Mr. Boozer requested that on our behalf.
May 7th.
Okay, because
That's right.
That's because I didn't do the cover. I would have looked this up.
So are we in time or not?
Because of Mr. Kadinsky's second request in September that I have lost, there are two dates as far as there was a May 7th that was originally given to us by Mr. Boozer, and then Mr. Kadinsky followed up on September 15th in regards to this issue.
I think what you're asking is the first 100 days would run from May 7th, and then,
Before the hardship,
correct, and now the hardship would get them to April 25th.
starting on a new time.
Which was
Correct.
September 15th.
They had a total of a year, but
The 360 days would be April 25th of this year.
But I think another question you asked Judge was that, are we in time, within that time?
So,
Did anybody else answer that question?
Yeah, it was, I think the executive secretary said it was filed in time. The problem, it got lost in the files.
correct, yeah. I received a letter from Mr. Kadinsky's office in September, which was not put on the docket. And so that's the reason why. And then he emailed me again to remind me about this in January, and that's the reason why it's on a January docket.
you're talking about the request for a hardship extension?
Yes, sir,
For the hearing.
for the hearing process.
But it was already filed.
Correct, by Mr. Boozer.
Right.
All right, any questions?
None.
I'm looking at my expert here.
Well, I'm,
I haven't figured out the date.
yeah, so the license, it was last used April 30, 2014.
It's when it expired.
So that's when it expired. Mr. Boozer submitted a letter asking for hardship extension. He did that on May 7.
Then I followed up with it in September.
You followed up on September 15, saying, hey, what's happened to the application, but I don't read that as a new request.
No, and I'm not asking
Okay.
to be tacked onto that. I'm just saying, I think I would agree with Mr. Boozer says that the furthest we could get is April 25th, which would be the 360th day.
So here's what I'm not understanding. The license expired April 30. You had 180 days to transfer it, which would have given you arguably till December 30.
Except that we
100
had filed the renewal in the name of the secure party, which
Right.
they're in the process of trying to find out what happened to that renewal.
Don't say anything. So April 30, it expired. You had, I guess, until October 30 to do something with it.
No, not really.
No?
We had, that would have been the first 180 days.
Right.
So there was a request before that. I think Mr. Boozer's letter said they couldn't do something with the business by October the 1st. They needed a hardship extension. In the meantime, we filed in September. I think the executive secretary has the letter there.
So he was looking for a hardship that would go from when the first 180 days expired, let's just say October 30, because that's 6 months. So that would take you to roughly April 30.
Late 25th really is 360 days. I mean, I don't want to, you give us April 30, that's fine too.
No, well,
Yeah.
I know I don't know whether you got that
The
app,
calculator
that
app, I will
calculator
have to, I will confirm it with the calculator app once I get back, but I believe it might be either the 25th or probably closer to the 23rd, given the fact that there are 31 days sometimes.
So I think it's fine, but I will say it's also confusing when a hardship request is submitted so early. When it was filed on day 7 of 180 days. So
Well,
that's where the confusion
I think that what
occurs.
They had, the theory was that they had somebody who was gonna try to buy the license. I think Jimmy Trujillo was in here when they were gonna move it to make it a nightclub. The board turned it down. In the meantime, the secure creditor exercised their rights. That's the reason why there was the request saying if we don't get rid of this by October, we need a hardship to move it. That's the reason why he asked so early. And there was some dispute as to the amounts that were due.
So we had a case similar to this with this board where a request was submitted very early. We had some argument back and forth as to when the extension would apply and what the dates would be. And I think ultimately we gave the 180 days, and then for the hardship extension, we let that begin when the first 180 days expired, so that there would be no disadvantage, no shortening of the time. So applying that precedent and looking at all the facts here, I do think that this is timely. I do think that you do have until some fuzzy date in April, which we will decide is the exact date, and you're fine.
Thank you. I think that the hardship thing is the most misunderstood, but I'm not going to get into that at this point. I mean, Dave Mister is the one who authored 10504, and the hardship only comes after 180 days.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we even had testimony before this board that said that a hardship is almost anything, that there was no real specific thought as to what would qualify as a hardship. And so, that sometimes doesn't digest well, because we like specifics, but the testimony is the testimony. And, and this was from one of the architects of the legislation, so. So I think,
I think that the hardship it doesn't just automatically add on to the 180 days.
You have to say why.
I'm sorry, was that not put in our letter via our lawyer?
Yeah, it was and it wasn't, and then we came in between. That's why we're in between. That's why we'll probably chat when we get done here.
All right, you ready for a decision? Yes.
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 And Madam Secretary, Executive Secretary, you're going to give me the date?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm fine.
Figure it out and I'll do it to you.
All right, thank you.
Now, do you need this?
No, those are for you, those are copies.
Okay.
Those are for the office.
All right, now that completes our morning doc.
Yes. Make it back.
All right, folks, 1 o'clock.
No, it's just on the end. I mean, the medication that I'm a little better than I was.
Sound like you're out.
Yeah.
But it's just that it picks it out.
The January 22nd docket for the Liquor Board. This is the afternoon edition.
What's this?
Those are the letters, so that's just in the punch list. So you have that.
All right, call your case.
Calling Liquor Board versus Ben and Tim Incorporated, Jeffrey M. Evans and Jamie Schuster Trading House Favorites Pub, Thomas Akers on behalf of the Liquor Board.
You have the licensee here.
For the record, Melvin J. Cadenzi, Fayette Street, representing the licensees. I'll preliminarily have various motions. We ask that the board confine the hearing only to the dates that are charged here, which is October the 25th and December the 4th. We feel that also the charging document has much more information rather than the charging document has conclusions in it, which is absolutely what the board has to consider, not what the charging document is.
Well, you have to do it as we get to that point. Just
No,
make your motion. It's too early for me to rule on it. I don't know what you're talking about. So
We have
let's
the
say-
charging document, he's gonna read the charge?
No. Do you need the charges read?
No, I do not, but I'm saying the charges are improper, that's why I'm gonna make it for the record.
Which charge is improper?
The way the charges are given, they're given conclusionary statements in them of 125 people that were found there that were underage and were drinking, where that's a matter of
Well,
proof, not a matter of charging.
No, they're going to have to prove it, and I'm
Okay.
going to grant your motion with respect to anything beyond the actual language of the charge itself.
Second of all, I would ask that any other documents that has been given to the board here be excluded. And I see everybody's got a package of documents, and they're not proper in this part of the case.
Well, I haven't looked at them, I don't know what they say. So your motion is granted as to that. I've been instructing my fellow commissioners not to look at them until we get to them, and then I'll rule on them at that time. Now, go ahead.
Your Honor,
Present your case.
first, I'm going to make a preliminary motion. I think it's in charge 2. The last sentence, officers were able to identify 105 of those individuals as Loyola students who were under the age of 18. I'm amending that to under the age of 21.
I talked with counsel, I don't have any problem with that, it was a mistake.
I understand you did. Granted. Go ahead, sir.
I'm going to call my first case. Yes, sir. If you want to step over here. And
He needs to be sworn and spell his name.
you need to be sworn and spell your name.
Swear all witness.
Anyone testifying, please raise your right hand, stand up, please.
Everybody stand up, you're going to testify in this case, and you, after you've been sworn. Wait a minute, Melvin, when I talk, after you've been sworn, listen to me, after you've been sworn, please stay where you are and sit back down, except for the witnesses that are called. Go ahead, swear.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
You may be seated, except for the first called witness. Call your witness.
Can you please state your name and actually spell your name for the record so our recording can get it?
Yes, it's Sean Kaphammer, Sean, S-E-A-N, Kaphammer, K-A-P, F as in Frank, H-A-M-M-E-R.
Can we ask that all cell phones be turned off? Now. Thanks.
Can I proceed?
Yeah, go ahead and get assignment and so forth.
Yes. Can you please state your rank and your employer?
I'm the Assistant Director of Public Safety at Loyola University, Maryland.
And how long have you been in that role?
I've been there approximately a year and a half.
And what are your responsibilities in that role?
Overseeing the Public Safety Division, 50 sworn police officers and administrative staff, comprised of 3 shift lieutenants, 3 sergeants, and the rest officers.
Now, what, if any, training and experience did you have before your assignment at Loyola University?
I was a member of the Baltimore City Police Department for approximately 21 years, starting in 1990. After that, I was the Chief of Police of the Carroll Township Police Department, which is located in York County, Pennsylvania. I was there for approximately 3 years. Then I came to Loyola.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with the bar Craig's Favorites, located at 5804 York Road?
Yes.
And what city and state is that located in?
Baltimore City, Maryland.
Now, how, if you could explain to the board, how are you familiar with that establishment?
Basically, from reviewing police reports, I indicated to my officers that I wanted them to start, when we started having alcohol transfer.
I'm only objecting because we're here for 2 dates, not anything else around that, the 2 dates they will be in charge.
Well, he hadn't finished the question yet.
But he's indicating he hasn't given any reason.
Well, he's got to finish the question before I can rule. Go ahead.
If you could, how are you familiar with the establishment called Craig's Favorites, located at 5804 York Road?
From reviewing Loyola University police reports.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to visit that establishment on October 25th, 2014, approximately 1 a.m.?
I did.
Why were you there?
We were there based on past events, which led us to believe that the Craig's Favorites was a hazard to Loyola University students.
When you say hazard to Loyola University students, what do you mean?
Well, I began to have my officers when our students were transported for alcohol sickness and things of that nature, or any type of an alcohol-related crime. They would ask the students, where were you drinking that night, or where were you coming from?
I can't cross-examine the students, and number one, we're talking about what happened on October 25th.
Go ahead.
So the officers began to question the students each time we had an event like that, and we noticed there was 19 incidents that traced back to Craig's Favorites.
Objection rather than, because it's hearsay on hearsay. He's getting information from a student to an officer, then to him, and I can't cross-examine. As long as I have a continuing objection.
Well, just make your objection. 19, the objection is sustained as to that. Go ahead, next.
Now, you said you had looked at police reports. Did you personally observe these police reports? Did you personally look at these police reports and pull that data?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and based on your personal observations of the police reports, what, if anything, did you find out?
We found 19 incidents.
I'm going to object. Again.
Well, I don't know what it is. 19.
Okay.
Overall, go ahead.
We located 19 incidents relating back to Craig's Favorites, in which we had either students that were transported to the hospital because of alcohol sickness. We had a sexual assault case. It was 19 separate incidents. When we questioned the students, where were you drinking at that night? The answer was Craig's Favorites.
It's my objection.
Overall.
And then, based on your analysis, what did you do?
Well, I'm going to object to that characterization of his analysis. I don't have any problem with what he did, but I don't know how he got to his analysis.
Well, I think that's what people do. Overall.
After reviewing the reports and seeing the 19 prior incidents reports, what, if anything, did you do?
We contacted the Baltimore City Police Department for assistance since we have no jurisdiction at that location.
And upon contacting the Baltimore City Police Department, what, if anything, was done?
I came into communications with Sergeant Morales, and we decided to do a joint venture for an inspection. Of course, he has the authority to be there. We were there in a supportive role. So October 25th, we responded there with members of the Baltimore City Police Community Relations Group.
And what capacity were you there on October 25th? What was your assignment?
Basically to get the identification, to see who was Loyola students, who was underage, and basically we have Loyola shuttle buses operated by Lieutenant Jefferson, and we transported the students back. At that point, the Baltimore City police officers conducted interviews and issued citations as needed.
Were you in plain clothes or were you in uniform?
I believe I was in uniform.
Okay, and your men, plain clothes or uniform?
Uniform.
Okay, so October 25th, 1 o'clock, when you arrived at Craig's Favorites, what, if anything, did you observe?
Well, members of the Baltimore City Police Department took various roles, taking the front and the back.
Where were you stationed?
I was in the front.
Okay, the front of the
Craig's
establishment.
Favorites on York Road.
Okay, and were you right in front of the front door, or
Yes.
where were you when you say you're in front?
Right in front of the front door. The establishment had stanchions out to be able to corral the students in and out as they let them into the bar. So that's what we use
They
as a
had what
method
out?
to corral them in. That's to make you had to go single file. They had stanchions set up, so you basically had to walk.
Stanchions.
Stanchions, sir, the
Okay.
metal ones, like bike racks.
All right, go ahead.
How many of your officers were present at the front door?
Perhaps 3.
Okay. And approximately, if you know, how many officers were standing by at the back door?
I think it was between 2 and 3. One of my officers might have been there, but it was mostly Baltimore City Police. And I know that some students tried to get out the back door.
Okay. Now, when you were stationed in the front, when police and everybody were coordinating this, did you go in first, or did the Baltimore City Police go in first?
Baltimore City Police did.
Okay. And when the Baltimore City Police went in, did you go in after them?
Eventually, I did go into the bar.
How long after the Baltimore City Police went in did you go in?
I would say probably a couple of minutes.
Okay. Now, once the Baltimore City Police came in, what, if anything, or once the Baltimore City Police entered Craig's Favorites, what, if anything, happened?
They entered and announced that they're going to be conducting an inspection of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I followed in afterwards once the scene was secure.
Approximately how many people did you observe when you got into the establishment?
It was well over 100 people.
Okay. And did it seem as if people were in a crowded space? Was it cramped, or did it seem like there was plenty of room?
On what ground?
I mean, I don't know what he means by crammed or crowded space.
Well, you could cross-examine them overall.
It was crowded. It was hot and crowded in there. I don't believe that they were over their capacity that night, but it was crowded.
Okay. Did you get to go upstairs at all?
I don't think they have an upstairs.
Okay.
I think they have a basement.
Did you get to go in the basement?
I did not.
Okay. So upon entering the establishment and making these observations, what, if anything, did you or your officers do?
Well, when I went in, what I initially observed, I observed all these students in there, and I saw that there was a lot of spilled alcohol cups over the ground. There was alcohol in the bar.
How did you know there were students?
Well, eventually, after the Baltimore City did their piece, they had them file out, and at which time all the Baltimore, it was 104 underage students, all of which were ours, Loyola students. I stood at the front and I asked them as they came out, and we were going to shuttle them back to conduct the investigation back at Loyola, because it's better than doing it on the scene because it was so chaotic. So I asked them for their Loyola IDs and the ID that they presented to get in. Some of the students just gave me, they gave me driver's licenses, which said that they were under the age of 21, and some of them gave me just Loyola ID cards. And I said, and I asked them, is this what you gave to get in? And they said yes.
I don't object as to what they said from what since they were not summoned to this hearing, I cannot cross-examine those individuals.
Well, this is a community board, overruled.
Well, let me indicate for the record that there is case law that says that if you're going to summons, you're going to have minors here, and it's the board's policy. My affidavits are given that you have to summons, you're supposed to summons in the minors, and it wasn't done in this case.
No, this is a different situation. This is a raid, and he's setting a platform for what he did. Overruled.
Thank you. So, if you could please just describe me, how did you identify that these were, did they give you identification?
Some of them handed me driver's licenses from their prospective states.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them handed me Loyola ID cards.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I received that was a driver's license indicated they were under the age of 21.
Okay.
Every single one?
Every single one. To me. Now, I understand Baltimore City Police later on found some of the students that had some fake IDs. I'm not sure exactly how many the officer will have to testify to that, but it wasn't too many. Under 10, perhaps.
And you did all this at the front, correct?
Yes.
And then your officers who were stationed in the back did the same thing in the back for individuals who were trying to leave out the back?
They were all sent out. Everyone went out through the front.
Okay, okay. So you actually got to made contact with almost every potential Loyola student there, correct?
Yes, every single one.
Now, when you were questioning them about their identification and if they were a Loyola student or not, did you ask them if they consumed any alcohol in Craig's Favorites?
Some of them I did. Some of them it was very obvious.
What's your position on that?
Well, my position is, I think council has given me a couple cases, Cade, I think.
Versus court's indulgence. There were two cases that he gave me, Your Honor, and in regards to hearsay, I believe it was Cade versus Charles Hickey School and Ezra Johnson versus Criminal Injuries Compensation Board. Your Honor, there's another case, Travers versus Baltimore City Police Department. In all of these cases, the court holds that hearsay is allowable in administrative hearings. If it's sworn under oath, which this officer has been sworn under oath, if it's close in time to the incident, you've heard the officer testify that as the individuals were coming out of Craig's, not 2 days later, not a week later, but as they were coming out of Craig's, the individuals identified themselves as Loyola students, they presented an identification, and he's simply testifying to what happened at that time. And the statements must be corroborated. Now, the major isn't my only witness. I'm going to have potentially 3 or 4 more officers testify, 2 to 3 more officers testify just about this incident and the number of people and how individuals were identified. So I believe we meet the 3 factors of reliability. The other factor is probative. Now, whether or not his testimony is more or less likely to prove a fact which is relevant at hand, I mean, the fact is, were these kids underage and were they drinking? That's what we're here for today. So, Your Honor, I would argue that this is hearsay evidence. It's both reliable and it's probative and it's allowable in an administrative hearing under Travers, even under Cade, and even under Johnson, which are all 2 cases that he gave me, Your Honor.
My reply is in the Travers cases, there was the individual, the person who was the girlfriend of the person who was involved was known and wasn't summoned. In this case, we don't know who the 105 people are. They haven't given us that information. We have requested the information, so there's no way to know whether or not we could have summoned them. In the Travers case, they knew who it was and didn't summons them, so that was the exception there. Here, we don't know who the 105 people are to be able to summons them. That's the distinction in the 2 cases.
Your reply?
Your Honor, hearsay is hearsay is hearsay, Your Honor. At the end of the day, he is testifying as to what somebody else told him. In the Travers case, the officers were testifying to what the girlfriend told them. Your Honor, whether or not the girlfriend is known to them or not, that's really not applicable in this point. What is applicable is what was told in the major was these were Loyola students, they were under the age of 18, and they were consuming alcohol. Your Honor, that's enough.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
So, if you could, how many of those individuals who were under 18 stated that they were consuming?
Interrupt you a minute there. You said 18,
I'm sorry, under 21. Strike that. I apologize. Thank you. How many of those individuals who are under 21 who you identified as Loyola students informed you that they were consuming alcohol?
Well, I had to break this down. I can't give you an exact number of how many of them notified me specifically that they were drinking. Some of them I asked as they came out, have you been drinking tonight? And they replied yes. Some of them it was so obvious because they were stumbling, they had glassy eyes, they were slurring their speech. One of them vomited on the bus, one of them vomited back at the police station because they were drunk. As I say, I've been a police officer since 1990. I've had field sobriety testing numerous times. I've encountered hundreds, if not thousands, of intoxicated people, so I know what an intoxicated person looks like. And I would say, if there was only a few that came out that I couldn't tell that they were drinking, that was it. Most of them were either visibly intoxicated, and some of them specifically told me, yes, I've been drinking. And 4 particularly were Loyola students that actually work for Loyola that work in the dorms. And I specifically interviewed them because it was something the student life was going to have to be made aware of, and they specifically told me that they were drinking in Craig's Favorites. So I know those names specifically. There were more, but I did not take notes on that.
Okay, that's sufficient. So after you identified these individuals as Loyola students and
They were under the age of 21. What, if anything, did you do?
We took them to the bus. Lieutenant Joe Jefferson spoke to them as they got into the bus, and we drove them back to the 5104 York Road, which is Loyola campus headquarters, so to speak, at which time Baltimore City Police was there, and we got them all properly identified, and then the Baltimore City Police took it from there.
When you entered the establishment, did you see any bouncer at the door?
They did have people at the front door, yes, bouncers or yeah.
And did you ever get an opportunity to speak with them?
And not in any great depth. It was any great depth. There was a lot of students there, and it was kind of hectic, so I know I did not speak to them that much.
Okay, so did you speak to the bartender at all?
No.
Okay. Did they make any statements to you in regards to how these students got in?
I didn't ask them. I
Okay.
felt that wasn't probably my place. Baltimore City's. It was the main law enforcement officials there, so I kept out of that part of it.
Okay, and now after you got back to the station with the Loyola students, what, if anything, did you do?
Just tried to make sure all the officers that were assigned to the tasks, that things were done in an orderly fashion, and that the students afterwards got back to their room safely.
Now, was a report written in regards to the incident that occurred by the Loyola Campus Police Department?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm showing you what's been marked. May I approach? Yeah. I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit number 1. Could you tell me and tell the board what that is?
This is a police report that was written by Officer Nichols the night of the incident.
Okay, and did you review that police report?
I have subsequently, but I don't know if I was the initial reviewing supervisor. That probably would have been a sergeant.
And what is, if you've reviewed that, what are in the contents of that document?
The contents,
Can I see before, this is the 3 pages you gave me?
I believe that there was supplements to this that has all the students' names in it, but it just gives a brief synopsis of what occurred that night.
Okay, may I approach the
Yeah.
Just 3 pages?
Yeah, you've got them. Yeah, you've got them.
Yeah, I provided that to the defense counsel earlier.
And in the...
My objection at this point is that's not the complete document from that night. The document itself, it says it's 61 pages, and there are only 3 pages here that were provided.
Do you have the rest of the document?
Well, Your Honor, under FERPA, the rest of the document includes the names of the students, and under FERPA, I'm not allowed to have that information. And I think Bob Magley, and representatives from Loyola could testify as to the reasons I'm not allowed to have that information. But there's federal law that bars me from getting that information from the university.
My objection to that is that there's a subsequent case here in which they did provide the names of all the parties, and FERPA didn't protect them. And as a fact-finding situation, in order for the licensing to defend themselves, they would have to have the names of the people that were there. They're certainly all adults. They have all that information, and there should be no reason why it shouldn't have been provided. You can't try a case without knowing who the witnesses are.
Well, the federal government must have intervened in this issue.
They didn't. We don't have anything from the federal government here saying they intervened.
Are you saying he's wrong?
I'm saying we don't have anything from the federal government, at least our government, that says that it's wrong.
Mine too.
Right.
If I may just address that point for the record, Your Honor, the 4 subsequent names that the defense counsel is speaking about were in a Baltimore City police report, which is entirely different than communications or documents that are created by the Loyola Police Department. And they're an entirely set of other rules, laws, regulations that are applicable to a Baltimore City public document, police department report.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm going to be moving into evidence as exhibit number 1, a copy of the, and he has a copy of the Loyola Police Report.
Oh, no, it's in this.
It's not, oh, it's not in this?
It's in this
Okay,
packet.
okay.
With your police report.
It's in the packet, but I'm just,
It's,
That's another thing, that we shouldn't begin the package of the documents before we submit them as exhibits.
Well, I haven't seen
No, no, but you understand what I'm saying?
Neither have I.
read them ahead of time, and I objected, and I sustained my objection, somebody has already read it.
All right, overruled, let's go.
So, once you're back at campus headquarters, what happened to the students after you interviewed them?
They were taken back to their dorm rooms.
okay. And did any students have to go to the hospital?
The best of
I
your
don't
recollection.
have, I wasn't with them all at the same time. I know there was one that was that threw up in the station. I don't know if he was transported or not.
Do you know if anybody required medical attention?
Other than him, I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. I'm not sure. It would probably indicate in the police report if he was transported, so I would have to say no.
Okay. No further questions for this witness right now.
Just, let me ask you this question, on this report, am I right in assuming that there were 61 pages to the report?
The rest of them were the students' names.
Yeah. And besides their names, it just has their names, it doesn't have their date of birth, it doesn't have anything on it?
Has address, date of birth, name.
Does it have what they were charged with, or what they were cited with?
Well, we weren't the ones doing the studying. That would be in the Baltimore City Police report.
So you didn't cite any of these 105 individuals with anything?
Well, if any crime took place, it was out of our jurisdiction. We really couldn't cite them. I believe Judicial Affairs reviewed it.
That's just the question,
Yeah.
did you or did you cite them?
No, we don't have the authority to.
You don't have any authority to issue, on the report it says, all of them were transferred, where various citations were given. What kind of citations are you talking about?
Baltimore City Police citations.
So the Baltimore City Police issued citations,
Yes.
and on those citations would have had somebody's name, correct?
Yeah. I haven't reviewed. I don't know what their citations look like.
How
I've
else
been
do you
gone.
know how
I've
to
been
issue a
retired since
citation?
2011. So I imagine so, yes, but we don't have those in our possession.
All right. So you don't know anything about the citations themselves?
I do not.
And when you went into the establishment, the report also mentions false identification. Did you get any false identifications?
I personally did not. Baltimore City Police got a few.
And who do you know has those?
It would be the Baltimore City Police, not us.
And as any of the individuals that were in there, how long do you know they were in there?
Oh, I have no knowledge of that.
So you don't know if they were in there 5 minutes or an hour? You have no idea?
I do know that the first time we drove by to look at the location prior to going, we went there prior to that, there was nobody there. When we did the second drive around, but I'm not really sure exactly how long it was, perhaps an hour. Then we could see that the location was packed full of people. So that's when we decided to do it. So I would say probably an hour.
And then in the meantime, you said you saw people at the door, you might refer to them as bouncers, what do they call them, security personnel. What were they doing? Did you see them?
I can't testify to what they're doing.
Did you ever talk to any, you said you never talked to any of the security people there?
Perhaps just as a how you doing, a pleasantry, something that I didn't ask them any questions.
Can you ask them about scanners?
I didn't ask about scanners, no.
You know what a scanner is?
I know what a scanner is, yes.
Have you ever looked at scanners at this particular establishment?
Have I ever looked for one?
Yeah.
No.
And out of the 105 people that you came out that were Loyola students, there were other people in there besides Loyola students.
I believe there was 100, I have to look at the report for the exact number, I think it was 125 perhaps.
I don't know, I didn't like the report, so.
Okay. Well, that's what it was.
You mentioned in this report that was given me, there's some redaction in there about 4 student RAs.
As I indicated, yes.
What was the purpose of redacting their names if they're RAs?
Your Honor, I believe this has been dealt with FERPA.
They're also students.
Well, let him answer it, Ian.
They're also students as well as employees, student employees, so they fall under
So
FERPA.
they're employees of this college or university, man.
As well as students.
How many of the people that you saw that you were in there actually had any kind of drinks in their hand?
I was not the initial person going in, so I can't tell you that. I wasn't a vantage point to see that.
I'm just asking if you said none, because you
Since I wasn't in there initially, the answer is none, yes.
Okay, fine, thank you. And on the supplemental report there's an indication there was a phone call made. Do you know anything about that? Was that Investigator Maglia? Do you know what I'm talking about? If you don't know what I'm talking about, tell me what I'm talking about. All right, I have no further questions.
Anything else? That's what this is used?
No, I may use him for a rebuttal, depending on what defense brings. Okay, I'm calling next, is it Sergeant Joe Jefferson? Lieutenant Joe Jefferson.
Jefferson, you say?
Please state your name and duty assignment for the record, and if you could spell your name for the recorder.
Lieutenant Joseph Jefferson, that's Joseph, Jefferson, Jefferson.
Okay. And how long have you been working for the Loyola Campus Police?
Approximately 5 years.
And what are your duties working with the Loyola Campus Police?
I'm the shift commander for the 12 shift. I oversee a sergeant and about 14 officers.
And did you happen to be working on October 25th, 2014?
Yes, I was.
And did you happen to respond to a bar called Craig's Favorites, 5804 York Road, approximately 1 a.m.?
Yes, I did.
What was the reason you were there?
Going to assist Baltimore City Police on bar inspection.
And once you got to the location, where were you stationed?
I was positioned in the rear.
Why?
A lot of times when Baltimore City goes up there, students tend to run out the rear, and sometimes they hurt themselves trying to get over the fence, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the rear, making sure the students didn't run out the back,
Mm-hmm.
and also getting hurt. It is dark back there.
Mm-hmm. And so when you were stationed out of the rear, how many officers were there with you?
It was myself, I believe one city officer, and I had a Loyola Campus Police officer.
Oh, so approximately 3 people?
Approximately 3.
Okay. And when the raid first occurred, when Baltimore City went in, what were you doing?
I'm trying not to consider it as a raid. It's a bar inspection. A raid is.
Apologize. When
okay.
when the bar inspection occurred, what, if anything, were you doing?
I went into the rear, but right behind Baltimore City officers. When I went in, it was, again, pretty chaotic. There was some younger looking individuals, some of with vomiting right there in the rear in the bar.
That you personally observed?
I personally observed.
Did those individuals happen to be Loyola students or later identified as Loyola students?
They were later identified as Loyola students.
Who were underage?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately how many people, you said it was a chaotic scene, approximately how many people did you see?
From the rear, it was well over 100.
Okay.
Like, from the rear, I can look into the bar,
Mm-hmm.
and like at least well over 100.
Now, did you notice if any of the individuals had cups in their hands or were drinking alcohol?
Some had cups in their hand.
Okay. And those individuals who had cups in their hands, did some of those, were some of those individuals or those individuals all later identified as Loyola students?
Well, some of them had cups in their hand. I didn't know that the same ones that had cups, when they came out the front, were this person came out the front with a cup. So there were individuals in the rear with cups in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
Again, later on, when we identified everybody as being Loyola students, I think that was well over 80% of the patrons that was in the bar at the time. So.
Okay. So what, if anything, did you do upon entering the scene?
I made sure that no one left out the back, make sure everybody continued to go to the front where they could be approached by Baltimore City Police.
Okay. Oh,
Then,
so you were essentially crowd control, kind of
pretty much,
pushing
yes.
people to the front.
I don't object that he said what he said. I mean, I don't know what it's crowd control. I think it's sort of leading there.
Oh, so, same thing.
Okay. And once all the individuals, were you there the whole time? Sorry, strike that. Were you there from the beginning of the bar inspection to the end of the bar inspection where the students were escorted out the front?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And after, did you ever have an opportunity to speak to any of the employees of the establishment?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And after the students were exited, what was your role next?
After the students were exited, once we determined, got everything calmed down and the lights were turned on, it was my job to get the shuttle bus and transport any Loyola students back to campus.
Okay. And once how did you go about doing that?
Went around to the front, met with Major Capham, explained to him that the rear was covered with the Baltimore City officers. And I explained to him, I let him know that I was going to now go back to campus and get one of our Loyola shuttle buses and bring it back up so we can start transporting our students back to Loyola where they can get to their dorm safely.
Okay. How big is this shuttle bus?
It's, I don't know if you're familiar with the mobility buses, about the same size as that.
Oh.
I guess it's 20, maybe 15 passenger bus.
Okay. So you went back to the campus and you brought that bus to the establishment.
Yes, I did.
And then once you brought that to bus to the establishment, how did you identify individuals that you were going to allow on that bus?
Well, the way we had the operation set up as far as the Loyola side of it is that Major Care Parent got the student IDs who were coming out the bar. I then got those student IDs. Whatever group he had, he would tell me, I have this ID, I have this person's ID, and that person would then, that student would then get on the bus.
Okay.
And then, excuse me, and then he would give me those set of IDs. Whoever's on the bus, I had those students' IDs. So the IDs stayed with the students, they was in my possession.
So once you got the IDs of the students, you were able to identify the students and look at the ID to confirm their identity?
Yes.
Okay. And the same identification, you were able to confirm that these students were all under the age of 21?
Yes.
Correct? Yes. And only students that were under the age of 21 coming out of Craig's Favorites were allowed on the bus?
Yes, they were allowed on the bus. If there was some student that was over 21, they was intoxicated, I would encourage them to get on the bus so that they would get back.
Do you know if any of them did get on the bus?
No.
Okay. And how many bus trips did you have to make?
I think I made maybe about 10.
You made 10 bus trips?
Yeah, at least.
Okay. And all the bus trips that you made, did you do the same process? Did you verify that they were Loyola students?
Yes.
That they were under the age of 21?
Yes.
And that they were coming out of Craig's Favorites?
Yes, they was coming right out of Craig's Favorites.
For each of the students that boarded the bus and you took back to Loyola that evening?
Yes.
Okay. And once you got back to Loyola, what, if anything, did you do?
What I did was I had one of my officers, Officer Nichols, speak with the students to make sure they get their IDs back. Because it was such, we had to keep it moving with the buses. I handed those IDs to Officer Nichols. He then identified the students who need to get their ID back. At that time, I asked Officer Nichols if anyone is under 21, make sure we notify, make a note of that. You know, knowing who was under 21,
Correct.
who was under 21. For the majority of them were under 21.
And approximately how many of those individuals did you identify as being under 21?
I think it was about between 98, maybe 98 or 100. I'm not sure.
Okay. If there was something that I could show you that would refresh your recollection, would that help?
Yes, it would.
May I please have what's marked as exhibit number 1? Thank you. Strike that. Strike that. Thought it was in there. It's not. Sorry, can I just leave it? So approximately 98, 99 is what you said, correct? Something like that. Okay. And you said before you came to Loyola, what was your job assignment?
I was assigned to Baltimore City Police Department for 20 years.
Okay.
While assigned there, I went to numerous training to identify drunk individuals. I've done numerous car stops, did sobriety tests. I've actually given sobriety tests, not just during the field sobriety, but where had to do breathalyzer. I was trained on a breathalyzer to identify the individual that was intoxicated.
Okay, so you've done numerous stops before, and you know the indicia of what an intoxicated person looks like.
Yes, yes.
You've been trained to identify the indicia
Yes.
of what an intoxicated person looks like. And you've made, how many car stops would you?
Oh, I've weighed, I could just say a large number of car stops. I mean, I couldn't begin to tell you.
So when you had an opportunity to observe all these students that were in the buses when you were transporting them, correct? And you actually observed them face to face when they got on the bus.
Yes, I mean, it wasn't like in personal space, it was close enough to.
Correct. And did you observe out of these individuals that came onto the bus indicia of intoxication?
Yes.
For most, if not all, of these individuals?
Yes, most of them were slurred speech. Some of them was unable to stand on their own. Quite a few of them, when they got on the bus, before the bus even pulled off, they vomited on the bus. So
more than one?
Yeah, more than one. I think 3 students vomited on the bus that night. Not all at the same time, but maybe at different trips.
And were you close enough to smell their breath, or did you notice any odor of alcohol on their breath or person?
Yes, the odor of alcohol was definitely present.
And approximately how close were they to you when you were driving the bus, when they got on the bus and you identified them?
I'm standing at the door of the bus, so they had to walk past me to get on the bus. And as they walked past me, I asked them, "Are you a Loyola student?" Yes. Do I have your ID? Do we take your ID? Yes. And at that time, I was,
So you were approximately how many feet would you say?
Maybe about a foot and a half.
So
maybe 2 feet.
closer.
Oh, closer than you and I.
Okay, about a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And so once you got back to the station, after you identified them as being under 21, after you spoke to Officer Nichols, what happened next?
Well, once I get them on the shuttle, driving back to the shuttle, I have an officer that was waiting for me at 5104 York Road, which is our office building. We would make sure they escorted off the bus, make sure they didn't get off the bus, like fall off the bus, so they wouldn't hurt themselves.
Did you have any individuals that were in that kind of condition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's all right.
And then what happened?
And then once we get them in to the headquarters, I'll say our headquarters building, which is 5104 York Road. We set up an area where they'll all sit there and they would get their IDs back. We make sure we properly identify every student to be there, so everybody got their ID back. So all students were then identified as being underage, under 21, given their ID back, and making sure we knew where they reside at, so we can get them back to their dorms.
So you're saying not once, not twice, but 3 times Loyola students were identified as Loyola students, identified as being under 21, and identified as being from Craig's. Once when Major Kapheimer took the identification, second time when you had their identification and they got onto the Loyola bus, and the third time was when you were distributing those IDs back to the Loyola students.
Yes.
Okay. And all the Loyola students got their correct ID that evening, correct?
Everyone got their correct ID.
Okay.
Maybe the next day, some IDs had to be taken back to students because they had left on their own, or may have gotten robbed by other, campus police officers. There was another shift working. So, but the majority of all students got their IDs back right then that night.
And to the best of your recollection, do you happen to know if any of the students, once you either on site or once you brought them back to the campus, required medical attention?
No one required medical attention, although there were 2 students that vomited in the building.
I'm going to object. The answer is no one required medical attention. What's going on here?
That's true.
What, if any, indicators of sickness did you observe from any of the students once you had brought them back to the Loyola Police Department headquarters?
Some were vomiting.
You said some. Can you give an approximate amount?
Sorry, 3 students were vomiting.
At Loyola. And how many students, if you could recall, vomited while on the bus?
2 vomited on the bus.
So approximately 5 individuals were intoxicated, so much so that they were uncontrollably vomiting.
Well, no.
That's an assumption that he's making in his question, that they vomited because they were intoxicated. There's no proof as why they're vomiting.
True. You got
Understand.
a question that has all kinds of assumptions.
Understand. So then approximately you observed 5 individuals vomiting who were taken from Loyola and back to the headquarters, correct?
No. I think maybe 1 student might have vomited twice.
Okay.
I'm trying to say.
Oof.
So there
That's
was 5 incidents of vomiting.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you, officer. And then once the students were given their IDs back and students were released, what, if anything, was done?
Then the report was written by the officer was assigned to me. Once that report was completed, myself and my sergeant looked at the report and approved it.
Okay. So you're familiar with the report?
Yes, I am.
Okay. No further questions for this witness.
Let me ask you this question. How many sobriety tests did you give that night?
Did I give any sobriety tests that night? None.
How many breathalyzers did you give that night?
None.
How did you know that there was the correct ID that you gave back to somebody?
They was checked against the student's pictures on the ID.
And how about their driver's licenses?
They didn't have a driver's license.
Nobody had a driver's license.
I was in the student ID.
Okay. And when you were there, did you at any time go around the front and see any security personnel?
I was where, sir?
At the establishment? Favorites?
Did I go around the front and see the security personnel? Yes, I saw the campus police and I saw the Boulder City police.
How about the security for the establishment?
I didn't see anything or anyone else that would indicate they were security.
But you actually went into the place?
I went into the rear.
From the rear. Who had the bullhorn?
I didn't.
Objection. Out of the scope.
You went to the report. You're going from the report. It's
Overruled. I want to get on with this.
the report said that somebody had a bullhorn. You're familiar with the report, correct?
Yes, I am.
Did they have a bullhorn or no bullhorn?
I don't remember bullhorn.
Okay, you would. And along with it, did you seize any evidence of any alcohol?
No, I did not.
You said you saw people with cups.
In agreement, yes.
Yeah, but you didn't seize any of the cups.
That's in the bar. I'm not
I'm just asking if you did or you didn't.
I don't have jurisdiction to receive the, take cups from the city or the bar.
Did you see anybody do it?
No, I did not.
All right, do you know any of the individuals that were in there, how long they were in there?
No, I don't.
You know if they were in any other places before they got there?
No, I don't.
You don't know if they drank on campus?
No, I don't.
Now, Mr. Harrison characterized you as a bus driver. Were you the bus driver?
I'm not a bus driver,
No,
but
I'm
for that
saying
night,
You say you were driving the bus.
yes, I was driving the shuttle.
You were driving the bus?
Yes, I was operating the shuttle.
Okay. Just asking the question.
That's it?
No, and along with that, there were, it indicates in the report that citations were issued. Who issued the citations to your knowledge?
Me, Baltimore City.
So do you know how many they issued, to whom they issued them?
No, I do not.
You know what kind of citations they were?
No, I do not.
Do you know if Loyola University issued anything to any of the individuals?
No.
You know if there was any follow-up from this incident with regard to the students at Loyola?
Yes.
And was there a report made that was sent to the university?
I'm sorry,
Did you
follow.
get a prefect of discipline or something like that at the university?
When you say follow, you mean follow by Baltimore City or follow by Loyola?
Your department.
Yeah, we had to locate some students to give them some paperwork that was issued by Baltimore City.
All right, but how about the university itself?
Did we do any follow-up? No, we did not.
But in this case here, the paperwork that you were given to the students, were they the citations?
No, there was trespassing orders.
Trespassing?
Yes, there was some paperwork that was for trespassing. For the students to not go back to the bar.
How about
All right, you may step down. Next witness.
Thank you, sir.
Calling Officer Fisher. Doug. Can you please state your name? Please spell your name too.
Officer Doug Gibson.
Gibson.
It's D-O-U-G-L-A-S, Douglas Gibson, G-I-B-S-O-N.
Whom do you work for?
Baltimore City Police Department.
How long have you been a Baltimore City police officer?
21 years.
And what is your role as a Baltimore City police officer? What are your duties?
For the bulk of my career, I've primarily been assigned as a community relations officer for the Northern District.
And are you familiar with the establishment located 5804 York Road, Craig's Favorites?
Yes.
And how are you familiar with that establishment?
I'm familiar with it as being a bar that we know that Loyola students tend to frequent.
Yeah, you have to limit your experience on this.
Okay. How are you familiar, strike that. If you could inform the board, why were you present at Craig's Favorites October 25th, 2014 at 1 a.m.?
We had, our assistance had been requested by the Loyola University in reference to underage drinking of students at that establishment.
And in response to being contacted, what, if anything, did you do?
We had set a date and a time that we were going to do a joint effort with them to go up to the bar and start an investigation as to what was going on. The primary objective was mostly an education component.
Okay. And when you approached the bar, where were you stationed?
Myself, I went in the front door. A few officers were staged at the back
What date?
door. It was the...
When was this?
I had asked him before about October 25th, 2014.
Go ahead, you went in the front door.
So I went in the front door,
And just to confirm, this was October 25th, 2014, correct? And you went in the front door. Were there any other Baltimore City officers present?
yes.
Where were they?
Some were stationed at the rear door, and then an additional officer went in the front door with me.
And what was your role in performing this bar inspection?
The main thing was to go into the bar and see if, in fact, that there were students in there drinking underage.
And so you were the lead for Baltimore City?
Correct.
Now, upon entering the bar, first entering the bar, what, if anything, did you observe?
Well, the bar was relatively full. There was quite a few students in there. Most of the students that we saw as our initial cursory view of the bar. Most of them had drinks in their hand. Very quickly, once they realized that we were uniformed police officers, we started seeing the beer cups getting tossed to the floor and knocked off the tables and things like that.
What, if any, security personnel from Craig's Favorites did you observe?
I think there was a guy at the door.
Okay. Did you observe him carding anybody beforehand, before you entered into the establishment?
Once we got there, kind of everything stopped.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you say once you entered into the establishment?
Well, we went in there, and just by looking at the kids, we had a pretty good idea that most of them were underage. So the first thing I did was I asked. We had the bar secured; no one could leave at that point, and we asked the entire crowd which ones of them were over the age of 21.
Was there any yelling, any combat, or were they cooperative?
There was some yelling, a lot of commotion, but once we got the noise level down, about maybe 20 people in the bar had their hands raised that they were over the age of 21.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we did is we went and confirmed their IDs
Mm-hmm.
that they were 21 through
Mm-hmm.
motor vehicle records
Mm-hmm.
and/or alternate terms of identification.
Mm-hmm.
So we did confirm that, in fact, 20 of the patrons in the bar were of age.
And then what
We
happened?
continued to question whether or not anyone else was 21, of the age of 21, that could provide identification that they were, in fact, 21 years of age. And the remaining 100 and some students all agreed that they were under the age of 21 and could not produce identification that they were 21 years old.
Was all this done inside the bar?
Correct, at that point.
Now, who is the one asking all the questions? Are you identifying every single person, or how many people were with you?
Well, initially, the ones that were had stated that they were 21 years of age, several officers went and confirmed their identifications.
When you say officers,
I
do
did
you mean
several.
Baltimore City police officers?
Baltimore City, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And then once these individuals were confirmed underage, what was the next step?
Once we confirmed that the bulk of them were of underage, the ones that were of age were allowed to they could do what they wanted, they could stay there. We kind of separated them out.
Mhm.
And then the rest of them, they all, with the exception of maybe one or two students, all were admitted that they were Loyola students.
Mhm.
So at that point, we took them out with the assistance of Loyola, started identifying them and confirming that their actual ages, that they were underage. And then we took them on the bus or put them on the bus and transported them back to Loyola College University. And then the officers, we sat down and interviewed them.
Before transporting them to Loyola University, did you have an opportunity to speak to anybody in the bar, bartender, or security personnel, or a licensee operator?
I don't remember. There were conversations, but I don't remember what they entailed.
So you had conversations, or people within some other Baltimore City officers had conversations?
Yeah, I think other officers. I believe my sergeant, Sergeant Morales, had talked to the doorman there.
Okay. Did you go through the identifications or the MVA identifications of all 100 individuals, or was that done by Loyola Police?
We, initially we did just kind of a cursory inspection of their IDs.
When you say their IDs, what do you mean?
Most of them were providing us with the Loyola identification, and then we were, the Loyola identification does not have their date of birth on it, so we were confirming through Loyola and the Loyola dispatcher the dates of birth of the students. And once
Okay.
we confirmed that entire group was in fact under 21, they were transported back.
So actually Baltimore City Police Department did their own verification outside of Loyola to confirm the ages of these?
We were kind of doing it together, but mostly we did a fair amount of them.
Okay.
But they assisted us with that.
Okay. And
Keep your voice up.
And then, so after, were you on the bus at all, or did you
No, I
ride
did
with
not
the
go on the
students?
bus,
Did you transport any students?
I did not.
Did you write any citations that day?
I think I wrote one citation for a fictitious identification card.
Okay. I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit Number 2. May I approach?
Yeah.
And I've given a copy of this to defense counsel.
That's correct.
Could you tell the board what that is?
This is the police report I wrote in response to our activities that night.
Okay, and you drafted that, you signed it, right?
That's correct.
Correct. And essentially, what does this report state?
It's a synopsis of our activities that night, that we went to the bar at 5804 York Road. We went in and we found that around 105 Loyola students were in the bar consuming alcohol underage, and most of the students showed obvious signs of intoxication, and a large percentage of them admitted that they actually had been drinking in the bar.
Moving into evidence is exhibit number 2, copy of the police department.
My objection is refers to discussions made with various individuals who we have not been able to identify. I object to that.
What's he talking about?
They have discussions with loyal students who we don't know who they are.
In the report,
Right.
mentioned.
I mean, it's just a general conversation about identifying the students that were in, Loyola students, is exactly what he testified.
Yeah, but he mentions that he had talked with them. I cannot cross-examine the people he talked with because I don't know who
It's
they
not
are.
evidence, it's not in evidence, overruled, mark it to, next one, come on.
Thank you. Your Honor, no, that's it.
Okay. Doesn't mention speaking.
I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, let me ask you a question, officer. How many arrests were made that night?
We did not make any arrests. Our
No
primary objective was,
Well, the question is you didn't make any arrests.
that's correct.
Will defense counsel
You gotta-
allow
you gotta
him
let
to answer the question?
You can't-
It just requires a yes or no
Doesn't
answer,
make it,
Your
that's
Honor.
your opinion. You gotta let the man, and then if you wanna strike something out, then you can make your appropriate motion. Don't interrupt and tell him what he can testify to and what he can't testify to. Okay, let's go.
All right, along with that, do you seize any evidence?
No, we did
And along the time, there's a question in the one report that was given by the school, the citations were issued. You're telling me there was only one citation that was issued?
I think a second, maybe a third fictitious ID citation was issued.
Who has those citations?
I have a copy of one of them.
Do you have it? Can I take a look?
I don't have it with me now.
So that, I mean, you're telling me that those names are redacted on it, under FERPA, FRIPA, whatever it is?
I know, I would have the name of the one, but the citation I have is one that was issued from that bar at an earlier date.
And then, along with this here, you, the IDs that you looked at, you were only looking at the Loyola IDs and whatever motor vehicle license they had?
Yeah, we looked at their motor vehicle license.
Did you ever determine that there were any other false IDs?
I believe we had, I know one that I issued, and I think there might have been 2 additional
How were
false
you
IDs.
determined if these students didn't have other IDs on them?
Well, we have no authority to search them in a case like this, so.
Did you ask them?
We did. Yeah.
Did you ask the people at the door whether or not you looked at the scanner when the IDs were scanned?
From, my sergeant had told me that he had a conversation with the doorman that night and said that they were not using the scanner.
Well, I asked you if you looked at it, now you gave me somebody else's answer.
Yeah, I
Did you
didn't.
look at it?
I didn't look at it, no.
Okay. Who was your sergeant?
Ron Morales.
Is he here?
No, he's not.
Did you used to hear somebody using a bullhorn?
I don't remember. Maybe as far as corralling the kids when they were outside, as far as giving them instructions of how to get on the bus and stuff.
Outside.
But I don't remember.
And besides yourself, you were there as a police officer, not taking into consideration the sergeant you mentioned. Who else was there from the police department?
Officer Bill O'Donnell, Officer James Barnett, and Officer Todd Edith.
And they're here today?
Officer Bill O'Donnell is here.
Okay. And what was their function at the time?
Pretty much the same as mine, to enter the bar and start to identify the students.
And then, just ask you the same question I asked them, you didn't give any breathalyzers or any?
No, our
tests?
primary objective here, we're community relations officers. Our primary objective was not to build a criminal case, but to go in and try to address a underage drinking issue and work with the university more at this point of a education component. So our main issue was to bring the kids back, sit them down, have a talk with them, give them warnings about underage drinking, and then in addition to that, we were assured that the university was going to follow up with, with talking to these kids. We'd had complaints. We had a kid that was run over by a car that his mother had told me that he had been in that bar drinking. He was intoxicated, and
Yeah, wait, she's stay on course. All right, anything else for this also?
You had mentioned during defense counsel's question about some of the reasons you were at the bar right at the end. What, if you could, what any kind of issues, brought you to this bar? You're talking about some of the issues that you'd heard about, reported from Loyola students, Loyola incidences. Could you go on about that?
Objecting. Are you leading here? We're going way down a long road here.
We'll go
Understand.
right back to the same thing.
Understand.
Well, let me ask you, officer, as a result of information that you received from Loyola concerning prior happenings, is this what was the understudy of why you set up this? Okay, that's the question.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No other questions.
All right. Any recalls?
No.
All right, call your next witness.
I'm going to be calling 3, actually. Detective Gatto. And this is going to be the incident, so that's all for the incident for...
This is the next incident.
Yes.
Well, give us the...
December 4th. Detective Gatto.
Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay. Bryce.
Already?
Right, and please stay, please.
Okay. That was the first incident. So 2 days later, that's why I wish this was him, because it's like gross negligence.
What thanks.
What
I'm
do it
going to ask questions. I'm going to ask you to turn and point to the kids in the grass. Okay. All right. And then I'm going to ask that they come up. They testify. They're not going to say anything. I'm going to keep you here as rebuttal witness for what you asked them outside. Right. And so just be prepared to be like, hey, I detected this. Did you identify it so-and-so person? What if anything did you ask them today? What if anything was the response? Did all 4 say that? So that's what I'm going to ask. Okay? All right. So,
It's fun.
This is long. This is the most attention I've seen in my years.
And you can get them in the news too.
Yeah. Sam Daniels, right? Is that Sam?
Yeah,
Well,
that's it.
he was a Donald. Sam Daniels.
Clown. They're going to probably bring him up in my case and in this case here. Well, no, either way, they're going to bring it up. But the one using that was not the same thing. Right. And I would like to say, use the day that we left for this case. They have to say, people are scared. Oh, well, they're scared. So the question is, is he scared of all this? Scared only detects the
So I could use somebody else's idea, and I can say,
I mean, like Mel's defense is horrible because he started bringing up the scam. You need to understand, does the scam a valid ID or a fake ID? When a fake ID, it's not going to say, oh, Mr. Ackers is of age of age. Take it the way it used to be. Scans the barcode, and as long as it's a valid NBA ID, it'll go through. Now, it may show up on your scanner saying, hey, this person's under 21. And see, that's professional. Right, that's professional. That's expert testimony. These can't do it. You know what I mean? I just want to bring that up because he started going down that road and he's putting himself in his own trouble because it only reads fake and not fake. Which is basically saying that, yeah, they all got in using their illegal underage ID.
They're illegal underage IDs. Because I could take your ID and just give it to somebody, and if I don't look at it, then I'm fine.
And that's what some places do. Because I haven't looked at the scanner in 10 years, when it first came out. But I know initially that's what the deal was, that they would scan them, or they would scan them, or I take your ID with me scan. Right, yeah, right.
Great, thank you. This is a tag.
We actually
Okay, we're gonna call back to order. We're gonna call back to order, everyone. Please be seated.
All right, folks, call your next witness. Detective Gatto, please.
Coming in.
is,
Could you please state your name, who you work for the record?
Detective Abraham Gatto. I am a member of Baltimore City PD, part of the Vice Unit.
And how long have you worked for the Baltimore City Police Department?
I'm in my 9th year.
And if you can tell the board, what are your duties in the Vice Unit?
In the Vice Unit, I work sometimes as an undercover, investigating various bars throughout the city, anything with a liquor board or liquor license. Investigating is, in this case, underage sales to minors, some in strip clubs, anything that involves violations of liquor board.
Okay. And did you happen to be working on December 4th, 2014, at approximately 10 p.m.?
Yes, it was.
And were you at the location 5804 York Road, known as Favorites Pub?
Yes, sir.
And what city and state is that located in?
It's Baltimore City, Maryland.
And what was your duty assignment that night?
That night, we were actually in a covert location, just investigating the bar in reference to numerous complaints that we've received for underage sale to minors of alcohol.
Marked car or unmarked car?
Unmarked.
Plain clothes or uniform?
Plain clothes.
And how far away were you from Craig's Favorites, where your covert vehicle was located?
It was across the street.
And what, if anything, did you observe at approximately 10 p.m. that evening?
At 10 p.m., while observing from this covert location, I observed a taxi pull up to 5804 York Road. 4 white males exited the taxi. They paid the fare. The 4 males, I could see I was using an eye enhancement device at the time. I could see that they were very underage or looked very underage. They proceeded to enter 5804 York Road, which is Craig's Favorites.
When you say eye enhancement, what do you mean?
Binoculars.
Okay. And so you're able to get a look at the faces of these males?
I could see their faces.
And do you see those males here today?
Yes, the 4 gentlemen are seated here in the 3rd row.
Could you point them out to the board?
3rd row on the left side here.
Have them stand up.
Can you stand up? See the individuals now? Those are 4 individuals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can actually be seated. Now, when you observed those individuals, upon observing those individuals, what, if anything, did you do?
I observed them. I observed them enter the bar at 5804 York Road. I then waited. I was actually with Detective Akawanda. He was also with me. We waited in our vehicle for approximately 45 minutes.
Why did you wait?
I gave, I gave the bar the chance to deny a possible underage patron. And I was also giving the individuals a chance to order a drink.
And after waiting 45 minutes, what, if anything, did you do?
After approximately 45 minutes, Detective Akawanda and I then exited our vehicle. After pulling across the street, we parked in the parking lot. We put on tactical gear, which is bulletproof vests, also a black cover vest that says police. On the front and the back is same. It's bold white letters. You can't miss it.
Where was your badge?
My badge was on my left chest area.
Same with Detective Akawanda?
Yes, sir.
And once you
Put on that clothing, what, if anything, did you do?
This time we entered the bar. Excuse me. When we entered the bar, I went to the left side of the bar there, and Detective Akawanda walked to the right side of the bar.
Did you observe the individuals who you spotted earlier?
We observed the 4 individuals. The reason we split and he went right as I went left is because 3 of the young men were seated on the left side of the bar, and then there was one other male that was standing, possibly sitting, but he was on an elevated ramp or plane there inside the bar.
Mm-hmm. And upon, approaching the individuals, what, if anything, did you observe?
I observed, like I said, the 3 young men sitting at the bar. Each one of them had a drink in front of them, which was partially consumed.
And those are the same individuals who you pointed out earlier to the board, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do when you saw those? How many, you said all of them had cups in front of them?
The 3 individuals had cups in front of them.
As I reached them, I overheard a person yell, and I'm going to use a sound here. Young man yells, "Oh shit!" As I hear that, I turn to my right and I observed Detective Akawande approaching the fourth individual. At which time this individual discarded his drink by throwing it to the floor.
Do you see that individual today who discarded the drink?
Yes, sir.
Could you please point him out to the board?
He's seated in the middle of the three, third from the left.
Thank you. And then what, if anything, did you do?
At that time, Detective Akawande and I began IDing all four individuals.
How did you go about IDing them?
I asked, well, first off, I asked each of the guys if they had ID. They did. They all presented valid photo state identification. And if I can refer to my notes, I could, if you would like me to, I could read the date of birth and their age, their current age on that day.
Actually, Your Honor, may I approach? I'm now been showing you, actually look at the official, now showing you it's marked as exhibit number 3. Could you tell me what this is?
This is the police report that I produced.
And you produced it on what day?
On the 4th of December.
And is that the date that you made these observations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to be moving this into evidence. Defense counsel has a copy of it. I provided to me.
That's correct.
Now, if I can refer to the piece of evidence, Your Honor. Now, you said you needed a refresher recollection. When you said you had spoken with those individuals and they produced their IDs, could you please inform the court the age of those 4 individuals?
I'll first advise you of the date of Mr. Vincent Cerecci. This is the individual that Detective Akawande approached, and he identified his date of birth as 10/16/1996. Mr. Cerecci is 18 years old on this date.
Can we agree that that's what this report will show, that all 4 of them are under the age of 21?
I would agree to that.
Okay.
He would agree.
It's in evidence.
He will agree?
All 4 are under the age of 21.
Okay.
Yes. Agreed by counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. After you identified those individuals, what, if anything, did you do?
At this time, when I realized that I had 4 underage individuals with alcohol, I then asked, I wanted to get them away from, I want to give them some privacy. I asked them to step towards the back of the bar. There's an open door there, as was earlier testified from other officers. I brought all 4 gentlemen outside, and I explained to them who I was, why I was there. I thanked all of them for being completely all cooperative with me from the minute I walked in there.
And did all say that they were consuming alcohol?
They did. They advised me, well, what type of drink all 4 of them had at that time.
How did they tell you where they got served?
Yes,
or who served them?
They said there were various bartenders, because there was a couple bartenders working there that night. There was one night manager that I later identified. They couldn't pinpoint the exact bartender, but they said they'd been receiving drinks, and it's just from the bartenders there.
What, if anything, did you do to tell the bartender or advise the bartender as to what happened?
Well, when I left, I explained to the bartender what was going on. I needed to see the liquor license. And then I simply asked him, why were there 4 underage individuals inside his bar?
And what, if anything, did he say?
His response to me was, well, they got through their IDs checked out with our scanner. And by telling me that, it was the IDs that I had just previously seen.
And what did those IDs that you had previously seen tell you?
They all told me that they were underage, and that their date of birth reflected that.
Okay. No further questions.
Let me ask you, you said that they told you that the IDs checked out in their scanner.
Yes.
Did you check the ID in the scanner, the one that he had in the scanner?
The bartender, or we're saying that the bartender told me this. I did not. Once I had looked at the ID with my own eyes, that's all I needed to see.
Did you look to see what ID went through the scanner?
No.
Did you know they keep a record in the scanner of the ID?
I'm not aware of that.
Did you talk to anybody at the door who had the scanner?
I only spoke to the bartender, the night manager.
All right. So if I told you that there's a possibility that they showed an ID went through the scanner, you wouldn't know if that was true or not. The only ID you looked at was the one they showed you.
Right.
You didn't know if they have any other ID.
I do not, no, I wasn't given any other ID but their state ID.
You didn't search them.
I don't have the right to search these young men.
You have the right to lock them up because they're drinking underage?
That's my discretion.
No, I'm saying you do have the right to do that.
Right, and my right was to use my discretion dealing with 4 cooperative and honest young men.
If they wanted to leave, you had the right to detain them.
I did have the right, but I used my discretion not to.
And you detained them, you're telling me you don't have a right to search them.
He didn't say that.
He didn't say that.
Thank you.
But you did
Next
not
question.
search them.
No, I did not.
You made no arrest,
I did not.
issued no citations,
I did not.
seized no evidence.
I did not.
Nothing.
Anything else? Call the next witness.
Can I call Detective Akawande?
This will be very brief. Could you please state your name, full name, and spell it for the record?
Detective Olufemi Akiwande. First name is spelled Olufemi. Last name is spelled Akinwande.
And Detective Akawande, how long have you been working for the Baltimore City Police Department?
Approximately 7 years.
And what division are you assigned to?
Currently assigned to the SES Vice Unit Gambling and Liquor Ward Squad.
And what are your duties there?
My duties with the Vice Unit is to, on a nightly basis, is to check liquor establishments, inspect them, make sure they are operating to code and according to the laws that bind them with their liquor license.
And did you have an opportunity to visit the establishment known as Craig's Favorites, 5804 York Road on December 4th, 2014?
I did.
And as part of that operation, you were investigating potentially purchases or sales made to minors, correct?
That is correct.
And in the course of your investigation, you and Detective Gatto had observed 4 individuals, rather young-looking, get out of a taxi cab, correct?
That is correct.
I just want to move through this quickly.
Leading?
Yes.
Yeah. You can't lead. You don't want him to lead.
Can we?
Sustain.
All right. Well, once you were situated at the establishment, where were you situated?
As Detective Gatto and myself walked into the establishment, I walked.
No, before that, you were at the establishment approximately 10 p.m. Why were you there?
We were there to investigate complaints that had been coming from about the Favorites bar, serving to Loyola students and students that are underage.
And what, if anything, did you observe at 10 p.m. that drew your attention?
I observed a cab pulling up with individuals that I recognized in this room walking into the bar.
How many of them were there?
Approximately 4 of them.
And they're the same individuals Detective Gatto pointed out earlier, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And how long did you wait before you went into the establishment?
Approximately 45 minutes.
And then upon entering the establishment, what, if anything, did you see?
Upon entering the establishment, I observed a young individual who had a drink in front of him, throwing the drink to the floor.
Okay. And that's what you actually observed,
That is
correct?
what I observed.
And when he threw the drink to the floor, can you identify him? Because that was your observation, correct?
Yes, I can identify him.
Please point him out.
He was with a blue polo, navy blue polo shirt, seated he's in the back of the room.
Okay.
I apologize.
In the back of the room.
In the back of the room. Third row from the front.
Okay.
Stand up. Let's get this over.
Stand.
That the one?
Yes. That is
Okay,
correct.
Let's go on.
Okay. And did he, because I know Detective Gatto did the identification, when you spoke to him about him throwing the drink, what, if anything, did he say?
When he threw the drink, I asked him why he threw the drink, and I asked him what was in the drink. He was nervous at first, didn't want to answer the question, and then I asked him again. I said, he should just tell me. It's in his benefit to tell me what was in his cup.
And what, if anything, did he say?
He told me that he had a gin and tonic.
And did you ask any of the other individuals what, if anything, they had in their cups?
Yes, I had a chance to ask the other individuals.
And what, if anything, they had?
They all had alcoholic beverages that night.
Okay. No further questions for this witness. That's what I need to get out.
Detective, did you make any arrests?
No, I did not.
Issue any citations?
No, I did not.
Seize any evidence?
The evidence that I came in contact with, I smelt it and I could tell it was
Did you
alcohol,
seize any
but I didn't seize
evidence?
it.
That's all I'm asking. Did you seize any evidence?
No, I didn't.
Along with that, did you see if they had any other IDs beside the one ID they showed you?
Because they were honest to me and I didn't have a reason for me to search them, no, I didn't check them to see if they had any other IDs. They were pretty forthcoming to me.
So the answer is no. Correct?
That's correct.
And along with that, did you check the scanner at the door?
I didn't know there was a scanner at the door.
Did you see anybody at the door?
I'm sorry?
Did you see anybody at the door checking cards?
No, I didn't.
Did you look?
I didn't have a reason to look as soon as I found out how old they were and they all identified themselves to me.
But when you came in, did you see anybody at the door checking cards?
No.
Did you ask if there was a scanner?
No, I did not ask if there was a scanner.
On the phone.
All right, call your next witness.
Vincent Searcy?
Pardon?
Vincent Searcy? Can you please state your name for the record?
Vincent Cerisi.
And how old are you, Mr. Searcy?
18.
How do you spell the last name?
Spell your last name.
S-I-R-E-C-I. S-I-R-E-C-I.
And, you know, were you there, or were you at, did you happen to be at Craig's Favorites located at 5804 York Road on December 4th, 2014?
Based on the advice
Let me ask you something. Do you have any objection if he just names all 4 students and gets through this?
Vote to the Fourth Amendment, right? Self-incrimination is what I was told.
Is that true?
That's what, there's an individual who claims to be their attorney advisor who states that that may occur.
Okay, well, go ahead then. Hmm? Well, nobody's done anything yet. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So what, if anything, occurred December 4th, 2014, and strike that. Did you happen to be in the bar called Craig's Favorites on December 4th, 2014, approximately 10 p.m.?
Based on the advice from my attorney, I respectfully decline to answer.
I thought he already identified himself.
He did.
Then you go ahead.
I know. Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate that. Calling, so did you happen to be at Craig's Favorites December 4th, 2014?
I decline to answer.
Pardon?
I decline to answer.
I instruct you to answer because you've already identified yourself as a person. With the name.
If you're going to invoke your, essentially, if you're going to invoke your right, your Fifth Amendment right, you have to do it right before you say your name. If you don't and you answer any question, you have to testify.
And your refusal to testify could lead you to, for me, to be able to punish you. You have a lawyer here?
No.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Well, just for the record, I don't know because you just gave me your name, you can't invoke your Fifth Amendment right.
He gave
I think you can.
You can
And he
invoke
gave
your
it.
Fifth Amendment right. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, that's what he's doing.
That's what he's done.
No, Mr. Gentleman's here in Wilco Parentis.
What he's done. I'm not sure. Do we have to go through all this?
Your Honor, I just, you know,
I mean,
if
I'm
there's.
just interested in time.
Correct.
What's the point?
Because they were summoned by defense counsel. Defense counsel instructed that I summons all 4 of these individuals. If if defense counsel will agree that all these 4 individuals and
See, here's the
stipulate.
point. I've got to go into the issue of punishment and so forth, and I don't really want to go into it.
I understand, Your Honor.
And they've already been punished, in my opinion, enough. They have to come down here. If they don't know by now that you shouldn't go and drink underage, then they'll never go.
The only
Nothing
reason.
that I'm going to do is going to change it, and I don't want to go through all 4 of these. So this-
Your Honor, I didn't either, but defense counsel insisted that I summons these individuals, and doing my due diligence.
Well, no, let's get this clear. That's not exactly what happened. There was a question that attorney indicated you were going to go
Mr.
on.
Priebus give you this idea.
On a police. But it's not Mr. Priebus, it's the board's policy. You established a policy that if their minors were involved, there was an affidavit given in a court case that they were to be summoned. Now, I don't know if the policy changed or not, but that's the reason why they were summoned to be here. It wasn't that I did it. I did it in the interest of justice and fair play. That
You don't care one way or the other.
No, I would know is that if they're going to take the Fifth Amendment right, well, then put it on the record, each one of them will take the Fifth Amendment right,
But you
and then
don't
we'll
care-
argue it.
But you don't care if he doesn't produce them.
No, I wanted the board to follow its policy.
Well, I'm asking you, are you gonna call them or not after what I've just said?
Your Honor, I never wanted to call them to begin with.
Okay, so what's your position?
My position
You're
is.
the prosecutor.
I'm fine. I cannot call these individuals,
That he's withdrawn?
and he's
Mr.
withdrawn.
Barry, have a seat, sir. Next witness.
That's fine. Your Honor, those are my cases for my fact-based case. I have a number of punishment-based witnesses,
I gotta object to
but
that. I mean, now he's way over the line. As though
No.
there would be punishment, and there's way object to people having these documents in front of them.
So he's not way over the
No,
line.
he's telling about punishment. How do you know he's gonna do that already?
Then I'm not gonna punish him. How's
He's not
that?
gonna punish anybody.
I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. We don't know. He's saying the punishment end.
I think he's just,
No, I know, it's happened to me before, that's absolutely true. But I'm saying is that in documents, and so I object
he's
to
just
it.
preserving his right to call
Right, is
more
that your
witnesses if
case?
necessary.
that is my case based on the two incidences, or the three charges today. I have other witnesses who will,
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let the defense go on now, and then after the defense, I'm gonna let the commissioners ask questions, because all the evidence by that time will be in.
okay.
All right, so go ahead. Present your case, sir.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Jeffrey Michael Evans, 426 Overbrook Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21212.
You're a licensee there, you've been a licensee since the year 2000, is that correct?
That's correct.
And along with that,
So you're the licensee of the bar in question?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Okay.
And
At all the times that we've had the two dates?
Correct.
I'm referring just to those two dates. And those two dates, do you have a mechanism there to check people when they come in as to whether they're of age?
We do, yes.
What is that mechanism?
It's an ID scanner that scans.
Talk to the commissioners.
Excuse me, sorry. We have a scanner that scans all three form of magnetic strips on the back of licenses that will help assist us in determining if an individual that comes to the front door attempting to enter is 21 or not.
And how much does that scanner cost you?
It was just under $2,000 with the software and the scanner.
You have a scanner with you today?
I do.
Can you just show the, I don't know if the commissioner's ever seen a scanner.
There go my first question.
Simple.
Does anyone handle it or just?
No, let's keep going.
All right, now when you put a card through there, it shows up valid or invalid?
Yeah, what it does is, you know, in the quick, it shows you if it's valid or invalid. If it's anything about the ID that's not kosher, that's fake, it'll show it as fake. In addition, it also says the age, whether or not they're over the age of 18 or not, as well as over the age of 21.
When did you get the scanner?
I've had this scanner since at least the summer.
Didn't have it in 2010.
In 2010, no.
Okay, go ahead.
And then along with that, when you would check, do you also take IDs away from people?
Not as a common practice, we do not. I've been informed that it's actually illegal for us to take someone else's property, even if it is a false identification.
But you have taken them?
Yes, we have, and we have.
Some with you?
I do, yes.
Let's take a look. Get a little look-see here.
These are just some ones in preparation for this that people attempted to use at the ID. We said we were going to confiscate them in order to, we believe them to be fake.
Were you there on the night in question we're talking about?
I was not, sir.
But you had security there that night?
Yes.
And how many security do you have? We can submit these collectively as ours, number one. So you get
Your Honor, I would just say relevance. I'd object for relevance because they're just IDs. They weren't taken that night. They didn't have anything to do with this incident. These are just random IDs. We don't know when they were taken, who they were taken from.
If I could,
Mr. Chairman,
well, if I can answer,
who was there that night? I don't know whether they were there or not, because they never gave us the name of the people who were there.
So
Just
where
say
did it come from?
He just told me he collected.
I
it
just
as
say
he
that,
went along.
not relevant, Your Honor, that's irrelevant info.
I don't understand it either. Okay, well, let's go.
All right, and along with that, how many people do you have normally working the door?
Normally, on any busy night, we've got 3
Well, how
people.
about on the night in question?
On the night in question, there was 3 people that worked the door.
Which night now? We got 2 different nights.
Okay. On October 25th, 2014, there was 3 individuals that worked the door. One of which pre-checks the IDs. He takes the opportunity, since a lot of the fake IDs, the reason I brought these in, a lot of these IDs are very credible, they look very good, they actually are able to get past the scanner and register on the databases as being legitimate. We actually pre-check the IDs, so the process we use is when someone shows an ID, we pre-check, inspect the individual IDs. The door staff has gotten very good at figuring out what the flavor of the month with fake IDs is, and knowing that we can turn them away in mass before we ever waste the time of even attempting to scan them and use that as a tool.
Well, I'm going to beat my fellow commissioner to the question. On October 25th, we have 98 to 99 people in there with no age identification. What happened with the 3
That's
people?
absolutely untrue. Every person that
They all
entered,
lied, that's all.
every single individual
Okay, now the 4
that stated that
people-
they did not show an ID that stated they were 21 lied.
Okay. Now, the second date, in the 4th of September 2014, we had 4 people came in.
Yes, sir.
What happened there?
I don't want to interrupt you, I don't think that's the date.
December 4th?
December 4th.
Oh, December, not September?
Oh, we have December 4th, Your Honor.
December. Okay, I heard September. The 4th of September, December 2014, that's when the 4 individual, the college students came in.
Yes, sir.
And they were passed in there,
They-
and all underage. So
they-
what happened to your scanner?
Nothing. It was there. It worked. They showed IDs that were scanned. We were never asked to produce it. If at any point the officers that are charging the minors with drinking, we offered that we have a scanned ID, and this ID scans and keeps all information for going back 2,000 names.
What do you have what are you alleging, that they had false identification?
They had false identification that
And
they did
went
not
through your
produce.
scanner successfully?
That's correct, sir.
Well, you would have a record of that, wouldn't you?
It only goes back 2,000 scans. And I said we offered that evidence.
I'm talking about the 4th of December 2014.
It would no longer be in the memory, sir.
Why is that?
It writes over itself after 2,000 entries.
So you've had over 2,000 entries since that date?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, along with that, did anybody, to your knowledge, did anybody, any of the officers, either Loyola or the police, ask to look at the scanner?
They did not ask to look at the scanner. In fact, when it was offered that we used it, nothing further was considered with it in any way, shape. And we've offered in the past, and on this occasion, that this scanner saves that information, and if we have 4 individuals that say they showed an ID that said they're under 21, we have the evidence, the exact information that was on the ID that they showed us
Yeah, but
is
here's what
preserved
your
here.
testimony is that on the prior date, your October, all of them lied. I mean, and the scanner didn't work, or the scanner had legitimate age qualifications for all 98 or 99 students that were in there underage? Are you telling me that?
Yes, sir. We turn away hundreds of fake IDs every
But
week.
that night, there's 98 or 99 in there who were underage. Are you telling me that your scanner and your system on that night, 100%, didn't pick up any of them?
No, sir, we turned away several hundred people. No, whether
So
specifically
those
on that
98
night.
or 99
Those
got
were the ones
through?
that got through, yes, sir.
Okay.
We turn away fake IDs and people without
And of the
IDs or
4 that
other
came in
people's
on the
IDs.
next time, all 4 of them, the
All-
scanner worked, and
Yes,
they,
sir.
They were allowed in because
Yep,
of that.
and like I said, in conversation with the police officers, we offered that we have the scan, we have the information that shows what ID they used that said they were 21, and it was not considered. In fact, they never even spoke with the door person that night that was actually physically checking the IDs.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to open
Can I
it.
just-
You go ahead.
Are you
Are
finished?
I just, no, no, I'm just waiting.
finish
So what
first.
you're saying is that this ID they showed you, the scanner passed, but you don't know what ID they showed to the police officers, is that correct?
Correct. The only thing I know is the ID that they showed the police officers was either a student ID or an ID that stated they were under 21, with exception of the individuals that said they showed false ID. And we were never made aware, it's been said 1 to 3 people. The report says various citations were issued, which I don't know, but we've never been made aware of anything that happened. And there was, again, no addressing the issue in sight when we said we have evidence right here, right now, that we checked IDs that will prove exactly what the information on the IDs stated.
All right, next question.
I mean, you know,
Wait a minute, now, I'm gonna let the commissioners go in. After all the evidence, and he has the right to cross.
So when your scanner, you indicated that it takes after 2,000, then it repeats itself. Is that correct?
Yes, it writes over it, correct.
And other than those 2 nights that were involved, October and December, did anybody come back to you from the police department or from Loyola to have any conversation with you?
Yes, they have. On historically, numerous occasions since then, at least one where they said, we know you're using a scanner, we want to come check it out. They brought a number of IDs and scanned them. The police officers came and used the scanner, checked it, see how it worked, make sure it was working properly. At that point, they were to see that the false IDs that didn't have any sort of magnetic imprinting on the IDs were declined and shown to be fake. Anything that had a magnetic strip where the information was able to be put on either the magnetic strip or the bar strip would read and inherently a false ID.
Next question.
I don't have anything further.
Cross.
Just a couple questions to follow up with you. How long have you been a bar owner again?
Since 2010.
Okay.
I'm sorry, since 2000.
2000.
Yes, sir.
And, have you ever had any prior incidences where, you've actually served minors by mistake? And
Objection. I want to object. That's not what we're here for.
No, we're talking about the accuracy of the scanner. Overruled.
and the accuracy of a scanner and records from scanner. So you've kind of been through this process before. Did you keep or maintain a record of the incident where the minor was served previously with the scanner?
I'm not sure which incident you're referring to.
Let me ask you a question. When you used the scanner before, have you stopped minors? Have you caught minors?
Yes.
And have you ever stopped or caught minors where police has been involved, where the police have been involved, or follow-up investigation?
Whether there's been any follow-up investigation, no.
You weren't at the bar that night, correct?
Correct.
But to the best of your knowledge, there were individuals working the door, correct?
That's correct.
But you did hear about a potential incident with Loyola where potentially 100 people were, identified as being underage, correct?
That's correct.
And did you at that time think it was important to save the record of any of those individuals that, maybe were scanned that night so you could show to police, hey, police, these individuals are 21 years old?
No, it was definitely, at this point, an absolute oversight on my part. The way that it was presented to me and my understanding of the situation wasn't that at any point throughout the night we were actually being accused of doing anything wrong.
But you didn't think that as a business owner, maybe potentially 100 potential kids coming out of your place underage maybe could have been a red flag that you should say, maybe I should keep these records?
Like I said, at this juncture, it's one of my worst oversights I can fathom.
Okay, what about the oversight on December 4th, when you actually had an officer come in, identify the 4 individuals, and actually tell the bartender, hey, I'm going to write a report, there's an incident report, and I'm going to report this to the liquor board. At that time, when those individuals came in, did you think that it was right to save that information, those 4 records of those 4 individuals?
Again, I believed at that point that the incident, while an absolute oversight to not do so, I was never, again, we were never accused of doing anything wrong. The fact that the 4 individuals here, whether they stated or didn't state that they've used a false ID to get in, that's been our assertion, the entire time, and it was never questioned on that case. In fact, they never even spoke to the door person that was actually physically IDing on that night.
But you're ultimately responsible for the incidences that occur in your bar, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in approximately a period of 2 to 3 months, we've had 2 incidences, one involving 100 some odd kids and multiple police officers, another involving the Vice Squad, and we have no records, nor have you saved any records, to present here today to show that you were doing due diligence, correct?
Well, I'm going to object.
Overruled.
Okay, I don't have this physical evidence.
Do you have any records here today showing that on the individuals who were scanned on October 2015 with the incident with 105 kids or December 4th, 2014. Do you have any of those records here today?
I believe, yes, I've got the people that worked in question.
Do you have any of the records from the scanner here today?
From the scanner? No, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And now, at this point, I'm going to open it up to the commissioners because you may have other witnesses.
With regard to the 100 and something people, were you given any names of anybody that you could have checked the scanner?
I was not. We not only offered and it was not considered that night, we were never contacted in any way, shape, or form after this.
But you knew the names.
No, I have no idea of the name, sir.
They never gave any names.
I couldn't name a single individual that was in the bar on that occasion that was said to be underage.
The 105 or how many it was, nobody came back to you and said, here's the names of those people so you could check it against your scanner?
No, not on that night when we offered it as evidence right then and not subsequently.
Okay.
Okay, question.
Okay, so I'm puzzled.
Sure.
You identify this information in your scanner as evidence, and you've said that no one asked you to produce the evidence. And so what I'm struggling with is, there's an incident, it's pretty sensational, it's pretty compelling. You've got evidence that would absolve Craig's favorites. Is it possible to print information from the scanner or to download it so that it can be produced and read later?
Yes,
And so there's a problem, you call it evidence. Why didn't you preserve that evidence? I mean, there's this thing called CYA that we all kind of learn. It's 101. Why didn't you just download that information and have it available when the inevitable happened, which is to come here today and have to defend the actions of your employees on October 25th, 2014 and December 4th, 2014?
Like I said, it's an unbelievable oversight on my part. There's no doubt. I don't know that the fact that I don't have that proves in any way that we used it and the people that chose the ID.
So you can, there's evidence that's paper evidence, and then there's evidence which is the absence of. And one thing is clear, that machine can produce, it can be linked to a computer or some other printer to record what happened on any given night up to before the 2000 is overrided.
That's correct.
Okay, and that didn't happen?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it appears to me that the scanner is the center of everything here in reference to verifying, identifying individuals and their age. Now, you said the door individuals or the security folks had the scanner at the front door.
Yes, sir.
The officers going in, no one saw the scanner as they were passing through the door. They never say they was looking for it. They just say they didn't see it. Now, there's a scanner there. You have it before you. To kind of help me a little bit, if you got this scanner and you had it, how long have you had that scanner?
Lasted since sometime over the course of the summer.
Do you have a receipt with you identifying when you bought that scanner?
No, but I could obtain it.
You didn't think to bring it with you today because you're using that to support a lot of what you're saying? Because somebody can question whether or not it was there and whether or not you had it prior to
It's
week.
common knowledge between everyone, and I can't speak for anyone else, but I would think everyone that's worked in any way in conjunction with Northern District or anything, that it's common knowledge that we use this. We use this every day. It was on advice from dealing with the police and the community that we have some way of backing up the IDs that we check. So this is, it's not a primary, this is just an assistant. Like I said, we pre-check IDs before they ever get to this, because this is not infallible. For us, we use it more so as a backup, as well as ideally evidence that whereas if somebody were to say, hey, I didn't show an ID, we can, I'll say, hey, on this occasion, at this time, they did show an ID, here's the information that's from that.
How Understood. One last one.
Yes, sir.
You say that you can only maintain 2,000 IDs checked in that computer.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way you can show us today the oldest ID you have in that computer now?
Yeah.
Trying to get to the action.
What, two?
I hope I won't have to move.
I have more if you need it.
What does that show?
This is showing, it's going to be bringing it up, shows customer, signs everyone a customer number, first name, last name, middle name.
I'm gonna show it to the
Okay. That's what I'm trying to bring up the list.
This is,
Sorry, it's a little slow when it gets into. So it's a touch screen as well. You can scroll up and down. And side to side, it shows all the different information. It saves, records exactly from the license.
So what is the, oh, I see, there you go, I see, okay, 20. This right here
Let the
shows,
record reflect at this point, so we, somebody, that there, you have the, Mr. Jones has the scanner in his hand and he's reviewing some information.
I'm reviewing the information, however, the question I posed was, show me the oldest stored information.
Okay, awesome.
And the date I'm looking at here is today's date, showing that I'm looking at some documentation here, but it doesn't exactly tells me what date this documentation was stored inside this machine I have in my hand.
Yeah, that's the most recent. I'll scroll down.
I'll take that back. Go ahead, Judge, I'm finished.
Okay.
I don't need it.
Finish your question.
No.
We got this far.
No, it's just taking, it's too time consuming.
I just have one. You mentioned that you use the scanner as sort of a backup for
Verifying IDs.
Yes.
Is the first line of authorization that a person is old enough to drink, just simply looking at their ID that they present to you?
Yeah.
And determining whether or not they're 21?
that's what we use a number of things. When they approach, we go from everything from watching them approach, and so many people, you can just see them, they're nervous, they're, you know, when they open their wallet, they pass their real ID to pull out a fake ID. You know, these kinds of things happen on a regular basis, and we watch that, and we don't even waste our time looking at wherever they hand them, we just send them off and decline. So that's why I say, when I say it's the second line, the individual, before the individual with the scanner,
watches the approach, watches everything, judge it, then they look at that ID and physically inspect the ID versus the person. And the reason we do that as the first line is because a lot of these IDs, a lot of these fake IDs scan. They're able to scan, it pops up in the registry and says all the right information. So we only use this, we don't use this as a replacement of checking IDs, checking it versus also this does not compare with the person holding the ID. So the first thing we do is a visual inspection of the person and the ID, and if we deem that we believe it's accurate, we then use this as a backup. And this, they have to go through this as well, and which in turn, again, gives us a second level, but it also saves the data if it need to be compared with something, later on in the evening.
So my other question, maybe you can't answer this, but I'm a little confused as to why if someone had an ID that showed that they were of age, they were 21 or older, old enough to drink, why wouldn't they give that to the police so that they are not in trouble? Why wouldn't they give that ID to the police?
for the same reason that
they wouldn't do so in another situation. They're committing a much more major crime, and they don't want to admit that. They've been busted, you know, in consuming alcohol. There's nothing they can do about that. But what underage kid is going to turn around and say, hey, here's my fake identification?
But many did. Many did,
And a number of
October
them,
25th.
A number of them, that's the only ID they carry with them, because as I said, we look in, when they open their wallets, and if we see another ID and they're handing us one, we stop and say, what's that?
And what struck me was when a lot of them got bused back to Loyola and they said the only ID they have with them is their student ID. That immediately just struck me as saying the reason they have only have their student ID is because they came out with their fake ID and they kept their student ID, their credit cards, all the rest of the stuff as backup. But to think that they didn't have an identification, a state identification with them, you know, is a little ridiculous to me. And like I said, we see it all the time. We deal with fakes, or we turn them away all the time. And I don't see any individual offering up, hey, here's evidence that I've committed another and much more substantial crime.
Except that they did, those that had.
Well, several of them, again, if that's all they had with them, I'm sure they had to, or in speaking with one of the police officers afterwards, he said they saw kids dropping IDs.
Yeah.
And it was obvious that they had something else with them.
Yeah, but I've had college kids living in my house, and I know that they always keep their college IDs on them. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Well, the
not-
college IDs is a standard backup, that they would use, and that lets us know that the ID that they're using has their real information.
Except
It makes
in this case, all that tells you is that they're in college because the college ID doesn't have a date of birth on it, right?
Yes, that's what I said, that's what we use as a backup. Anytime there's any question.
I think that's a no up, because it has nothing on it. I mean,
Well, when we look for a form of identification, they've
Oh.
got to have something else with a picture
Oh,
that has it. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's something that we've been asking for 15 years, is that student IDs would have birth dates on it. Every one of them has to carry it. You know, if I believe correctly, I think it's even their admittance card and everything. We've been asking for that as a tool to aid us in combating the problem of underage consumption, that the IDs would have their date of birth on it. It's a standard second form of ID for any and all college students from all universities. We, in doing our due diligence, look for backup. We look for other items that confirm the information that's put in front of us. And, we've been looking for and said, and it would, for years, that the assistance of a college ID simply having the date of birth on there would be an invaluable tool for us to be able to determine if an ID that's coming through that looks good, that's scanning, perhaps still belongs to a person that's under 21 and is
Now,
fake.
what about the law that says that you shouldn't serve a person if they've had too much to drink?
Yes, sir.
Did you notice the police testimony? You've been here all day?
Yes, sir.
The police testimony was a large percentage of these young people were so drunk, one of them threw up inside the bar, and almost all of them were heavily under the influence of alcohol.
As I said, as a policy, we don't overserve. If somebody shows
So
that,
all the testimony the police officers testified as to this is incorrect.
I can't say that what they testified incorrect, but I don't know the reason for it. I mean, again, even in that time frame, that it happened from a 1 hour instance from the time that they drove by and didn't do a bar inspection to the hour later.
How long does it take to examine one ID? How long does it take?
It takes.
Took you a long time.
Well, again, I was trying to go back to the records, actually scanning the ID.
5 minutes?
Oh, no, sorry. It takes anywhere from 3 to 8 seconds, depending on.
Okay, well, you heard the police testify that they waited until a large number of people actually came in, and they thought there was a large gathering, and then they came, in the first testimony, in the later testimony, that's when they actually entered your place.
Yes, sir.
So all these people went through this process at the door, you're stating?
Yes, sir.
Every single one of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Emphatically.
All right, any other questions, commissioners?
None.
All right, anything else?
I have a couple questions about the scanner.
Yes, sir.
So,
What what you're saying is that either the students that they pulled out of Loyola, and maybe even the 4, young men who are here today, they either had IDs of somebody else who would scan, correct? and that would come out being correct over there and saying it's a valid ID.
That is,
Or,
oh, I'm sorry, finish.
or they had fake IDs made that were able to trick the scanner.
Yes, I'm
Either
saying
or.
that. I'm saying most likely the latter, as we're trained to look for the former. If they have someone else's ID, they likely, either the picture's not going to match up and we have an opportunity to discern it's not them from that, or they're not going to have any sort of backup. And as far as when it comes to having fake ID, as a matter of proof, I went online for 1 hour last night, 1 hour, and just said fake ID. Googled fake ID. How to make fake, you know, I'm not a little out of order here. You know, scanablefakes.com. How to, Wikipedia, how to make a fake ID. Premium fake IDs. Get your scannable fake ID today, Espionage Unlimited. Best fake ID service around YouTube. Fake your drink, fake IDs. New IDs. This is unbelievably common and something that we combat every single day.
So you would say you're almost an expert. I mean, you've been working in the business for about 10 years, and you know you've done an hour's worth of research on fake IDs, and you've seen, you know, maybe a number of IDs in your 10 years working the bar, 15 years working the bar business, right? That's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So let me ask you a question. How come on the night of October 25th, 2015, how come police who were there for maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, I don't know how long the investigation took, were able to spot all these fake IDs, and you and your, or at least the personnel who've been working for you, weren't able to do that?
Well,
All they had,
I gotta object.
This is
There was-
cross.
No, well, I gotta object, because she's taken into consideration, fake IDs never came up with the police. Now you interjected.
Yes, they did. That was on,
100 people had fake IDs. I
No,
did
no,
No, he didn't say that, Mr. Kadensky. He said that.
I'm going to sustain ejection for another reason. All right, next question.
So-
Next subject. We've been through all this.
No further questions.
Just very briefly, when were you, when you were first notified that this case was going to come for the liquor board?
It was the first week of January, I believe.
I'm no further questions.
The first week of January for both cases.
That's correct, sir.
All right, any other witnesses?
I'm sorry, I believe it might have been the last of December.
You have another witness? Okay. And you've been sworn, ma'am, is that correct? All right, your name?
Megan Rock.
Get close to the microphone.
What is your name?
Megan Rock, M-E-G-A-N.
M-E-G-A-N?
Correct, and then,
R-O-C-K.
correct,
Okay, go ahead.
And you're employed, I-Favorites, is that correct?
correct,
And were you on the premises on both the dates of October the 25th and December the 2nd?
December the 4th, correct.
Yeah, what is your function when you were there? What are you supposed to do?
I check IDs and do door money.
All right, and when you say you check IDs, do you use the scanner?
Yes,
And when you do use a scanner, do you scan everybody coming through?
correct.
And on the date of October 25th, when there were allegedly,
October or no, or we're not, she said?
October 25th, it was
I thought
100
we were
people.
in December.
There
No?
was 2 dates, she worked both dates.
Work both days, doing the same thing both times? Okay.
And on the October date, when there was 100 allegedly people in there that were underage, did you check their cards when they came through?
Yes,
That information was available to the police?
correct.
Did the police, either Loyola Police or the regular police, have any conversation with you to verify what you had in your scanner?
No,
And did they talk to you at all?
no,
Did you offer to try to give them the information that was in the scanner?
I did not, but one of my coworkers did.
Okay. And on the, same thing on the December date, did you also have that information in your scanner?
Yes,
And did the police ask to look at it, or did you be able to show it to them?
the police had no contact with me.
No contact at all. But on each one of those instances, you were the persons that that people came through and you scanned them.
Correct.
I have that further question.
Cross?
Okay, you were at the door both nights, so let me ask you a question. How do you go about checking an ID?
The person gives it to you, you match their face to them, you look under a UV light to make sure that the proper identification per state is there. If those 2 pass, you scan it. If that passes, they enter.
so you scan, you look at every single ID and you scan every single ID?
Correct.
Okay, and how can you tell the difference, or when you first look at an ID, how can you tell the difference between a real ID and a fake ID?
First look,
First look and or scan.
I look for UVs, because that's the only way that I know how to tell the difference.
Okay. And then, so if there's nothing wrong with the UVs, then you scan it.
If it matches what the book, we have the copy that's sent out, the statewide, I don't know what technically the term is for it, but if it matches that, then it has all the right pictures, all the right UVs, then as far as to my knowledge, it's accurate, and then it goes to the scanner.
How quickly does this take?
How quickly,
How quickly does it take to scan an ID?
well, let's say, how quickly does it take to scan 100 and some?
About 10 seconds per ID. I don't know. I don't even. Probably about 30 minutes.
30 minutes to get the 100 people in, scan those IDs?
Because after you scan, you have to pay, and usually that's the whole of the line, not the scanning part.
Okay. And are you taking money and scanning simultaneously?
Depends.
Okay. And how would you explain the 105 individuals that got through the scanner?
They're using very good fake IDs.
And the 4 individuals who then got through the scanner?
It's fake IDs.
And you couldn't spot those fake IDs?
No.
Okay. But you heard earlier today the police could spot those fake IDs.
I heard the police took 3 IDs, I believe, in total citations. I don't know how they spotted them. I don't know if they were offered up.
Have you have any training in identifying fake identifications?
Traditionally, no.
So you don't have any hours, any classes, any certifications?
No.
Okay. And do you work the door every night?
Yes.
Okay. So you're still working the door today?
Correct.
Okay. And have you had any fake IDs that have come through recently?
I confiscated 3 last week.
3 last week. Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
You just scan this ID?
Talk louder.
Scan it.
That's yours?
I wouldn't give them mine.
Interface first.
Timing it.
I'm sorry, it's just slow. This interface isn't working. And it has the information up.
This is Mr. Peter Priebus, and he's of age.
I'll have a Shirley come.
What's the point of what you're showing?
Just want to ask how long it would take. There's another one.
This is the fake. That was
What
when-
does it say?
As your age of 22 years, that's all.
So these are the fakes that you gave us?
So how would you, could you tell this is a fake?
Not right now, and I don't have a UV light to see if it has the proper
These are the fakes that you gave us.
Okay. So notwithstanding the UV, if you saw this and you scan this, you just allow this person to go through?
See the date on that one?
Anything else?
No.
All right, any recall, redirect. All right, any other witnesses?
State your name and address for the record, please.
Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Shoulder, S-H-U-L-D-E-R.
And are you employed over at Favorites?
Correct.
And what do you do there?
I'm the nighttime manager.
And were you there when any of these events occurred?
Correct, both of them.
All right, and at the time, were you using scanners, or were there people at the door, security people?
Both.
Anybody don't need this anymore, do you? Anybody? Commissioner,
No, I
get
don't
back
need
to- And were they using the scanners and checking IDs at the time?
Correct.
Did the police at any time request to look at the scanner?
They did not.
Did you talk to the police, or either the police from Loyola or the Baltimore City Police?
I did.
And what did you say to them?
They asked me how people got through the door.
And what did you say?
We do numerous checks using the scanner, using the UV light, and using facial recognition.
And that information was available to them if they wanted to look at it, is that correct?
Correct.
And nobody looked at it
Correct.
on either of those occasions?
On either of them.
I know.
Now, as the night manager, you know, you're in charge of keeping numerous records, correct? And did you ever think that, you know, when you had, since you were there at the bar and you saw them clearing 105 individuals from your bar, did you ever think you should have kept those records? The scan records of the IDs?
I didn't know how many IDs or who was taken out.
There was a number of people that were taken out.
Correct.
After the police went through and cleared the bar, how many people were left in the bar?
They all cleared them out, so I don't know the exact number.
So there must have been very few people left in the bar.
Correct. I didn't have any access to get any of the IDs to know from anybody that was underage.
But it maybe some of that it's possible that some of that information was still on the scanner, correct?
Correct.
Now, you yourself have you worked the door before? You're the manager?
Correct.
You have?
Correct.
And you heard earlier testimony of Miss Rock, who stated she looks at the ID, you know, puts it under the UV sensor and then slides it in the machine to see if it's okay.
Correct.
Now, how many IDs have you scanned in your, you know, your career?
Recently at Craig's Favorites, between 50, 75.
Okay.
I'm normally behind the bar.
And if you kind of scanned an ID, you saw it through the UV ray light, and it scanned and it went through, but you looked at the ID and you looked at the person and you thought to yourself, wait a minute, this guy looks like he's 15, 16 years old. What would you do?
They get turned away.
Now, I want you to just turn around and look out into the gallery, okay? I want you to see those individuals right there, okay? Now, if one of those individuals presented you an ID, you scanned it, okay, through the UV, it checked out in UV, you scanned it in the scanner, would you question, would you ask, wait a minute, maybe something smells funny. Maybe I should turn one of these away.
I would, but I wasn't there during that evening, so I have no recollection of doing that because I was not on the door that night.
No further questions.
Commissioners?
I just have a question. Ms. Rock mentioned that her job was to check IDs and to collect money. What was she collecting money for that night?
We do a $1 cover charge per individual that enters our establishment.
And that's your standard operating procedure? You
Always charge a $1 cover?
Correct, unless it's a Thursday evening.
Okay, and why do you charge a cover? I mean, why do you charge $1 cover just to get in? An entertainment fee? Huh? What entertainment is there? I mean,
We use satellite radio. A lot of the places use jukeboxes that don't charge covers, they pay for music.
okay. And so the more people that come in, the bigger your fee, the greater coverage you have to pay for the entertainment, correct?
Correct.
All right, so you're the night manager. What are Saturday nights at midnight usually like for Craig's Favorite?
Recently, they've been very busy. We have 2 floors. We normally have 3 people at the door, making sure we let proper of-age individuals in. I couldn't tell you the exact number of people, as I am the manager. I'm behind the bar serving guests, but we are busy. We are to code. No violations have been brought up to my attention of being overpopulated. So I said I could give you an exact number.
So you have 2 floors?
Correct.
Upstairs and a downstairs, or upstairs and a basement?
Upstairs in a basement.
So back in October, what was your Saturday nights like? Were you typically busy on Saturday nights in October?
Relatively.
And is it fair to say that your clientele typically is from Loyola University?
Correct.
And is Craig's Favorite sort of like a favorite place for Loyola students to go?
It is.
Okay, and that's something that you all cultivated and you enjoy the benefits of that, correct? All righty, thank you.
Anything else? No. Any other witnesses? All evidence is in?
All evidence.
Any other questions of commissioners?
None.
All right, on to the issue of whether or not I believe or don't believe the testimony.
Can I argue?
Yes, we're on that issue now.
All right. With regard to.
Well, first of all, we start with the prosecutor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then we go to you.
Call him the prosecutor. I don't know.
Go on,
Sorry.
I'll save my argument for rebuttal. I'll save my argument for rebuttal.
Whatever you want to call him, the person who produces the evidence. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said I'll save my argument for rebuttal. I'll hear Mr. Kudinski out.
He waves to you.
On the question of prohibited practices under 4.01, which is the rule here, it says no licensee shall sell or furnish alcoholic beverages to any person under 21 years of age, or any person with the knowledge that such person is purchasing or acquiring such beverages. We have no evidence of that. One person here testified that the licensee sold or furnished it. They weren't charged with having licensees to consuming, or having minors consuming. So there's no evidence in the case here that they were sold or furnished with regard to the October incident case. As to Rule 3.12, there's no evidence that there was any disturbance to the peace, health, safety, quiet, and general welfare of the community itself. There were some discussions with regard to what the Loyola students there, but regarding how and what happened, and there were no evidence given as to who those individuals were. It seems almost incredible to me. And I know you sent a lot of cases, 105 people, and I don't have a name, not one name of anybody that we could even go to look, and to hide behind FERPA, FRIPA, whatever it is. It makes no sense to me when you go ahead and sign up and you got a student ID and you're there, that we couldn't be able to go through and say nobody was searched, nobody said there was a phony ID, nobody went through the whole thing as to what went on there. I think in the case there is a much of the overkill, where after it was over, why wouldn't you come back? Why wouldn't you come back and say to them, look, we got all these, it's a problem, let's sit down and talk. When did it happen? Show me what it is. Let me look at it. Here's the people we had going through here. That didn't happen. Nothing happened. It just didn't happen. Then all of a sudden he gets charges in the case. So I think in the case here with regard to Rule 4.01, that was not proven. As with regard to Rule 3.12, other than the police and the officers from Loyola Whitcomb, there was no community people here. Everything that they testified to seemed like it went relatively smoothly. They came in, they searched them, they put them on a bus, and they left. And that was it. That was the end of it until these charges were filed. Now all of a sudden, all these allegations come out, and they have scanners, and nobody asked about the scanner. Why wouldn't you ask about the scanner? How simple is that to say? If you would have told me the next day, I would have said, look, here, look at my scanner. I'll give you these. You don't have to tell me who, but tell me if these are the same people you have, and compare it and say if these IDs went through. And and I think the Commissioner Moore, kids were kids. They all got phony IDs. I will say one thing is that I never did. I just drank without an ID. But I didn't go and take somebody else's phony ID,
That's because I tell your mother.
And I'll tell you a true story. I was the first time that I ever had a drink that was out. I had a cousin gave me, and when he gave me, it was a Geneva Convention card. You know what a Geneva Convention card is?
No.
It means if you get captured in the war, they're supposed to treat you humanely. It doesn't say anything except your name and your date of birth. And I was in Sherry Show Bar on Pulaski Highway, and they took it.
Everybody's been there sooner or later.
Yeah, and eventually he went there. But I mean, there were people, and so you can get any kind of. The Chinese can make IDs today. They can make anything. Gucci bags. They can make IDs that pass everything.
Stop giving these young men ideas.
And what happens here is there's no personal responsibility for all these people who are adults. They're adults over 18. No, not one person came here and said what happened to them. Not one person came, said what happened to them. They know, you know how old you are. You know that you're 19 or 20. You know that. So when you go in and you're pulling the old flipperoo on somebody, you know it. And if you can, fool the scanner and all that, you get in there. There's no evidence was seized. No arrests were made. How hard is it? You got to pick some evidence up. Take it out of somebody's hand. Tell me what it is.
Your Honor, as to the charges, and I'll just go the minors, October 25th, 2014, believe we've proved beyond preponderance of the evidence. You've heard statements that were taken under oath, that were corroborated, that all indicated that there were a number of individuals who had cups in their hands, who police saw having cups in their hands. Police saw, acting intoxicated. You've had police testify who know the indicia of being intoxicated, came face to face with a number of these kids, and they all appeared to be intoxicated. They all came out of Craig's. Your Honor, this circumstantially, we've proven our case, at least on October 25th, as to all the minors drinking. Also, as to October 25th, Rule 3.12, general welfare. This is 1 a.m. in the morning off York Road. There are residences right behind York Road. There were 10 busloads, approximately 10 busloads of Loyola kids who were taken off of Loyola property. You've heard the officers testify that they were acting somewhat rowdy at first. You even heard defense counsel mention a bullhorn. You know what? That is affecting the public welfare at 1 a.m. in a residential community, Your Honor. That's exactly what affecting the public welfare means. Your Honor, also as to the December 4th, 2014, again, you've heard corroborated testimony from the officers that they identified the individuals as being minors. And, you know, much to Mr. Kadinsky's chagrin, we actually do have 4 minors here, Your Honor. 4 minors actually did show up. They may not have testified, but they were identified by police who observed their identifications at the time. Now, Mr. Kadinsky's talking about not having any knowledge. This is careless. This is reckless. This, Your Honor, is a pattern and practice. 1 time is a mistake. 2 times is careless. 105 times, Your Honor, that is a routine. That is a practice. You're doing it with knowledge. You're doing it recklessly, Your Honor. And so we believe we've proved all 3 charges beyond a preponderance of the evidence.
3 minutes maximum to respond.
Well, in reference to, I would say that I don't, you have to be able.
I can time it.
What is it? You timing me?
Yes.
You know, when you go back and you look at the evidence that was submitted, they picked some Loyola students up in 10 busloads. They didn't take them back to campus. They took them to York Road. Went through a community. He took them to the place on York Road. It used to be a used car lot there. I know how they got the property. They didn't go 10 busloads through Loyola, so it wasn't like they were disturbing the community. The bullhorn, it says
Speaking to the mic. Speaking to the mic.
Hey, I'm talking.
Speaking to the mic so they can hear you.
And regarding the bullhorn, it's in the report. Nobody knows anything about a bullhorn. What was it put in there for? Nobody heard the bullhorn. So I think it's just putting in there just for overage. You know, they're putting too much, they're dumping everything on this licensee here, and I don't think it's warranted.
All right, with respect to the issue of responsibility for the charges only, that's my job. And I'm now going to rule on that. And then after that, depending on how I rule, if I rule against you, then we'll go to the issue of punishment. And at that point, of course, I'll let both of you address it. With respect to the first one, 3.12, general welfare, and when do we have all of these children in this bar at this time, I am totally unconvinced of any of the testimony of the licensee with respect to his methods of determining that 105 minors actually got through that front door without that so-called sophisticated position, that most of these children were under 19 years of age. They weren't even 21, they weren't even 20. They were 19 and 18, according to what I've heard. And a large number of them were drunk or highly intoxicated, using alcohol. And one of the restrictions of running a tavern is that you're not allowed to serve people until they become to the point where they're become unable to conduct themselves in a proper manner. And it's obvious to me that many of these children were in such a shape. And so we not only have the failure to properly manage them after they got in the bar and were drinking served by the bar, which was admitted, but I have my suspicion that they weren't even carded at all, and I don't believe the testimony of the licensee. With respect to minors on the 25th, with respect to the quantity and the effect of such an offense, it couldn't help but be a hardship on residential neighborhoods surrounding this bar. And I'm convinced that charge is easily proven. With respect to the issue of December 4th, 2014, the 4 males that came in, I'm convinced that they weren't properly carded or examined, and that they used fake IDs to get in, if they used anything at all, because the police came in 45 minutes, they testified immediately after they were there. And of course, all of them admitted to drinking. All of them admitted or had alcohol in their possession. And all of them admitted that they weren't of age. So I'm convinced that all 3 of these charges are proved. And now we'll go to the issue of punishment. And I'll first hear you.
Your Honor.
And then I'll hear you, Ms. Kuditsky.
Your Honor, I just preliminarily, Your Honor, I have a number.
I want to tell you, on that issue, I want to go to the people in the room who want to speak.
Correct. I just wanted to.
Not you, but you.
Understand, Your Honor. I just want to collectively introduce, this is going to be a number of exhibits. They're written letters from various community members who are present here today and may offer some testimony.
Why don't you bring the community people up and get through the, whatever they're
I'm going to be
gonna
calling
produce.
first Councilman Bill.
Object to those exhibits.
Well, I don't know what they are, so when we get to it, if they're introduced, I'll look at them.
These are just letters from the community in regards to punishment.
Why don't you do what I said?
Okay, I'm calling Councilman Bill Henry to the stand, Your Honor. He wants to offer some testimony.
He looks exactly like his father.
Thank you very much, and I will take this opportunity to recognize my father, the original Bill Henry, a former longtime employee of the Liquor Board, and the person responsible for the fact that I myself was never caught underage. Because, and I feel comfortable saying this publicly since the statute of limitations is now exceeded, he threatened my sister and I with, we'll call bodily harm, if that were to ever be the case. I did want to make one quick factual adjustment to my letter. I had previously been informed that the fire department had closed favorites last year because of overcrowding. I have since been informed that it was actually shut down immediately for expired fire prevention permits, blocked exits, extension cords used in place of permanent wiring, and exit lighting and emergency lighting problems, and not in fact overcrowding. So I just want to make that
I'm
correction.
objecting to. It has nothing to do with what we're doing here today.
That is with respect to violation and punishment.
Well, then the question is, what was the date? Who did it? What happened? What's the proof of it?
Well, I agree with it. You have to prove it. I'm going to let you do it by cross-exam.
Your Honor, I went to business school, not law school, so I don't know if I should do it this way, but if counsel would like to simply object to all of my testimony up front, I'd be happy to accept that now, because he's not going to like anything I have to say.
No, we want to hear from you.
Well,
Go ahead, answer the
laugh
question.
in the back and around. I mean, it was.
Well, ask him what you want.
What are we doing here? I'm saying is that I want to object to anything that has to do prior to these two infractions. That's what we're here about. The two dates in question, not something that happened beforehand. If there were violations here before the board, you can then say, yes, there was a violation here, you can allude to it.
Your Honor?
I completely disagree with you, that everything, the record of the bar and the activities that they've had since he became an owner and operator in 2000, is relevant. And I've heard your testimony. All right,
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I'm adding a letter. It's 2 pages and rather extensive. I'm not going to ask to read it I'm going to submit it for the board.
Does this letter have any incorrect information?
Not other than what I just clarified in terms of why the fire department closed favorites last January. And there's a copy of the notice. It was not for overcrowding, but for other infrastructure problems.
Okay. Mark it as exhibit, punishment exhibit 1.
Okay. I'll for the record have an objection.
In the interest of time, since there's still a number of people who want to testify, the one thing I would like to make clear, and this I think does speak very specifically to the 2 particular charges in front of us, and not to the years and years and years and years and years of negative impact that the bar and its patrons have had on the surrounding communities. But if over 100 of 120 some customers are underage, then regardless of how they got into the bar, regardless of whether or not there was a scanner, regardless of whether or not that scanner worked, although I will mention as an aside that if I were underage and I had a fake ID that was so good that it could beat a UV light, a scanner, and a trained professional at the door, then I don't think I would hesitate to show it to the cops and avoid getting into further trouble. But that's just me. I'm a risk taker, I suppose. But the one thing I will say is that if they had over and I think I did the math right, over 80% of their customers were underage. The point I would like to make, and the one I will rest on, is that's not an oversight. That's a business model. This bar exists to serve underage students. And I really would ask that you are willing to end this business and cease its operations in our community. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. You understand that since Mr. Evans has been a licensee since 2000, there has not been any liquor board cases. There's been no violations by the liquor board. Not had any protest or renewal for all that time.
Well, I'd be happy to speak to that if you'd like.
You understand that there is none. That's all I'm asking the question.
Well, that's incorrect, so that's why I would have to explain further. We actually were just, I don't know if this was emailed to you, but we found documentation of 2 cases from 2007, neither of which had a resolution in which the establishment licensee was found guilty. Correct. One because the officer who wrote the charges failed to appear, and the other because the licensee asked for a postponement, and the hearing was never rescheduled. I really don't wish to belabor this board with the poor practices of its predecessors, but I don't think you're going to have any problem finding a room full of people who will be happy to say that we didn't bother protesting in the past because in the past we had no reason to believe that the board would be willing to accept the level of problems that this bar caused as being equal to what they felt was needed to close one.
So you're saying it on behalf of everybody?
No, I'm saying that that's how I feel. If you'd like to ask everybody else in the room, I'm sure you'll get a variety of answers. But at this point, we believe that we have before us a board that is willing to recognize this bar for the true blight on the commercial corridor that it is.
And they're the only bar on York Road?
They are the bar on York Road that we are addressing here today.
That's not what I asked you, Councilman.
I
you said
believe
you
were
want
the
to
one
answer
who asked
something
us
that
to
you want to
concentrate
answer.
on just the charges before us.
How many bars on York Road do you think there are?
How many bars on York Road do I think there are? Okay, let's start counting on 43rd. Let's see, Wozy's. I think Wozy's is closed now, right? Okay. So then Rex's is a liquor store. They're not really a bar. And working your way up York Road, you've got Jen's Liquors, but they downgraded from a BD7
Let me ask you,
to
what's this got to do with this case?
No, other than
I can go on.
There's probably 15 bars on York Road.
All right, well, listen.
Oh, I'm fairly certain there aren't.
Next question.
All
right, next witness.
Your Honor, can I just take a moment?
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear, but there's a lot of noise in the background. The gentleman to our far left is recording everything that is said at the microphones. It's hard for him if there's a lot of noise in the audience. So if you all could not respond verbally to what you're hearing in terms of the testimony, that would be very much appreciated.
Okay, let's go.
Next, I'm calling Ms. Flynn from Loyola University. She's approaching John.
All right, I'm going to have to tell everybody, it's because of time shortages, we have to leave here at 4 o'clock, and then we'd have to come back if we don't complete. So I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I'm Joan Flynn, Joan Flynn. I'm the Associate Vice President for Administration at Loyola.
Where is she?
She just left. She's going to get a timer.
Who's going to time?
Michelle.
Then
Let's
I'll
see.
time.
Let's see. I'll time it from the wall.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, I have no disrespect to you, really. It would just have to be out of here at 4,
Yes.
and there's a large number of people here.
I'll say that I will echo the comments of Councilman Henry that I think are echoed by the entire community here. It has been a blight on our community because we feel that we are part of the Govans community, and it has been an extremely problematic establishment for our university, more so than any other bar on York Road or any other part of Baltimore City.
Let me ask you a question, then. You tell me when the 2 minutes are up.
2 minutes.
You're up?
No, just go ahead.
When you say this bar has been a problem for how long?
Well, I've been at Loyola for 25 years, and my current position for almost 11, so I would say with certainty for at least 11 years.
So during the entire time that this owner has been there?
Yes.
From 2000?
Yes.
All right. Any questions, Commissioners?
No
None?
questions.
Thank you very much. Call the next witness.
Can I ask one?
Go ahead.
Like, how many times have you sat down and talked with Mr. Evans?
Well, back in 2010, we talked to Mr. Evans a number of times in regard to Craig's Fest, which was a biannual 9-hour all-you-can-drink event.
They stopped that.
They stopped that because they were no longer issued the permit, the one-day special event permit to host it.
So other than that, how many other times have you talked?
I believe that we spoke to him at least one other time after that. We spoke to the owners of 3 bars on York Road, asking them to try to work with us to employ more responsible business practices, not to allow underage students into their bar, not to use students as security. We also asked him in 2010 to look at ID scanners.
Did he ask you to have the dates of birth put on student IDs?
He did not ask me, no.
Why don't you have dates of birth on student IDs?
I can't answer that specifically. That's not my area. I would know that at a minimum, we'd have to reissue an ID perhaps every year. First-year students come in, they're issued an ID. It's expected they'll maintain that ID for their 4 years.
No.
All right, call the next witness. Thank you.
Next calling Bob Magley from
All right. 2 minutes.
Yep, I got him.
What's your name, sir?
Robert Maglia, M-A-G-L-I-A.
Go ahead, sir.
Just, you can testify, tell the board who you are and the impact that Craig's Favorites has on Loyola University and the student population.
I'm the investigator for the Loyola University Police Department. Because of this incident, I queried the computerized report management system.
For the record, I'm making an objection. If it has to do with prior to this date that we're not charged, I'm making an objection.
No, overrule this punishment. Go ahead, sir.
I queried the computerized Loyola Police Department report system, and I determined that there were 19 public safety incidents directly related to our students being at Craig's Favorites before they engaged in serious behavior on our campus, a total of 19 incidents during calendar year 2014.
And what kind of incidents?
We had 1 sex offense, 6 sick persons, 1 police information, 1 indecent exposure, 2 assaults, 4 liquor law violations, 1 burglary, 1 suspicious condition, 1 dating violence, and 1 drug violation.
Any questions?
Yeah, where do you keep a record of this?
At Loyola University Campus Police Headquarters.
Can you get a copy of that?
Yes, sir, you can.
Did you provide a copy of these to the police department?
I'm sorry?
Did you give a copy of these to the police department?
No, sir.
Sex offense, what happened at Favorites was a sex offense?
The victim was drinking at Favorites before the sex offense occurred.
And the sex offense happened after she left?
That's correct.
I shouldn't say she.
That's correct.
And did anybody report any of these instances to Favorites?
I'm not sure, I don't know the answer to that
You
question.
had any conversation with Favorites?
Is that 2 minutes now?
Oh, yeah, I've got to be able to keep on going, you can't just cut me off. For the record,
Go ahead, you finish.
I'm finished.
All right. Call your next witness.
Next, any community members that would like to speak, please form a line from here down. You're going to be given approximately 2 minutes. So quickly make your way forward. When you come up to the microphone, state your name and whatever issues that you have with Craig's Favorites. Come on down.
Hi, my name is Stephen Jones. Been a resident of Baltimore for 20 years. I've lived about 50 feet behind Craig's since 2001. I've had numerous issues.
The continuing objection, if it has nothing to do with these 2 particular dates.
You
on
have,
one of the
wait a
dates-
minute, sir. You have your continuing objection, and it's overruled, but it's on the record. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I've had problems of weekly problems of overly drunk individuals walking past my house, urination, vomit, to the point where in the mornings I need to hose down my gutter like Bourbon Street, litter of broken beer bottles, fist fights, fights between couples. My fence has been torn down twice. I've had students copulating in the rear of my pickup truck. I've had to remove the evidence, the used condoms of students copulating in the rear of my pickup truck on numerous occasions. And then I've had major incidents of 2 students climbing on with my AC unit, peeping into my window while my wife was changing, and 2 incidents of the rear of my car being busted one time with a stolen keg from the bar. I know most of the students are students that are underage, because lots of times when they're out there being loud, I go out there, I converse with them, I let them know that people live here, and that we talk about school. I'm a college professor, we talk about Loyola. I ask them their age, I ask them to stop coming down my alley. The main reason they come down my alley is because they spend all their money at Craig's, and then they want to cut through Homeland to get safely back down to Loyola, because they do not have cab fare. You have any questions, sir?
Yeah, how do you know they're coming from Craig's, not Murphy's?
Because I asked them. I know the owner of Murphy's, he's much tougher. I know the owner of Fields Old Trail. I know the owner of Jerry's.
It's not Fields Old Trail anymore, is it?
It's not Fields Old Trail
Okay,
anymore.
got it.
So,
And then all these.
by the statement of the students, they're leaving
All right,
from Craig's.
and you have particular dates and times that you could give me right now?
I do not have particular dates and times on me. I do have all the emails that I've sent to public safety. And on the 25th, there were students that did jump the fence. They must have escaped the corral that the police had put on. And I do have email of me reporting that to the Loyola Department of Public Safety.
Did you bring them with you or no?
No, sir, I did not.
And the copulating thing,
I do have some video evidence, but I'm not legally sure what is. I've put up security cameras.
and you know they came from favorites?
I'm not positive that those students came from favorites. So I'm talking to the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa O'Reilly, LISA_O'_REILLY. I live on the corner of Crowson Avenue and Homeland Avenue, which is approximately 15 blocks from Favourites. I'm also on the York Road Partnership Leadership. And
Yes, you have it on all these people.
well, actually, if October 25th is anything to do or anything like numerous other incidents that I have witnessed, and then I can speak probably very well to October 25th. I would just want to talk about the safety issue that happens at around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning when Favourites empties out. I have driven past there numerous times. I've had to avoid young people either being in the middle of the street, drunk and falling into the street. I don't want to knock them down. In the past, the police have tried to allay the fact that taxis arrive outside Favourites. When they pick up their passenger, they swing and do a large U-turn in the middle of York Road, which is a 4-lane highway. So you are not prepared for that. So sometimes I've had to slam on my brakes just to avoid crashing. And that happens on numerous occasions, sir, not just on the 25th or the 5th, or I'm sure it happened that night. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the fact that crash barriers, as I know them, I'm Irish, I don't mind a drink. Thank you very much, Judge, and thank you for all your work in the Irish community, by the way. But the thing I'd like to also talk about within my culture is that to call Favourites a pub is actually the biggest misnomer and the most glaring oversight I would actually put out into the record today. This place is pack them in, fill them full of drink until they've no more money left, and then when they are completely intoxicated, just vomit them out onto the street. And I use that term very, very reservedly, vomit them out onto the street. I have also had to deal with vomiting in front of my own house. I've had to deal with noise. I've had to deal with fights. I've also had to deal with people actually. There was a stabbing incident, but that's another day's story. Thank you very much.
Who drives the cabs? Anybody from Favourites?
No, it's the usual cab company of Jimmy's and Arrows.
Who puts the barriers up?
Favourites do. The large construction bollards, I think, are an attempt by Baltimore City to keep the peace and to keep people safe. Yep.
Have you ever had conversations with any people from Favourites?
No, there's no point.
So the answer's no.
No, thank you.
Well, the next person. Name, sir?
Kurt Schwartz, CURT-SCHWARTZ.
All right.
I'm on the steering committee of the York Road Partnership, which meets monthly, very close to Favourites. Feel free to throw all this testimony out. However, once a year we have a public safety summit that we hold every spring. This year's topic, specifically the effects of alcohol consumption by university students on surrounding neighborhoods. I'm not specifically saying Favorites is the one or only bar that does this, but Homeland and all the adjoining neighborhoods along up and down York Road said this was the topic they wanted us to bring this year.
All right, sir, question?
Bring the topic in front of the Favorites. Anybody talk to Favorites about it?
Pardon?
Anybody talk to Favorites about it, or Murphy's, or anybody else?
Favorites has been the topic, but I do not know of anyone who firsthand has gone to Favorites. I would not be aware of that.
All right,
Thank you.
Next.
Hi, I'm Stan Wilson. I'm a W-I-L-S-O-N. I'm a 35-year resident of Homeland, and I'm a 10-minute walk from Favorites. And I'm secretary of the board of the Homeland Association that represents 957 residences just west of York Road. The impact of Favorites.
This is all west of York Road, the same
That's
side
correct.
of Favorites.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Part of our neighborhood is on a direct line between Favorites coming down Lortz Lane and then cutting over and going across the Notre Dame campus to go to the dorms for Loyola at Cold Spring and York Road. So we are on a direct path from drunken students who leave Favorites. I am not impacted in the block I live, but in the 3 months since I agreed to represent this issue on the Homeland Board, I have polled the community, and I have a dozen responses that vary from 3 minutes from Favorites, picket fence pulled down, several cars keyed, you know, where you scratch down the side of the car, crowds of loud, disorderly, white, college-age kids, 6-minute walk from Favorites into our neighborhood, metal contractor's sign from a neighbor's yard smashed into somebody's, the hood of their car, loud noise typically coming after bars close, especially on weekends. 9-minute walk from Favorites. 3 years ago, two white college kids were stopped from dragging a 40-pound concrete planter off a porch out toward the street. They came back when the resident caught them. They came back and shoot them away. They came back when the resident was on travel, took the planter, took it to the rear windshield of his car. I can go on about planters being left on cars, shattered glass car windows. I would say that about 2 years ago, one of our vandalized residents.
2 minutes.
Okay. One of our vandalized residents and our operations manager went and met with the head of Loyola Security and with some senior administration official on Loyola. As a result of that, they have had a Loyola police car in the auto zone right across the street. This has helped some, but it has not eliminated the problem.
Wait for a question. I don't know this direct answer. It really has no bearing on Favorites. How is it anybody has any connection with Favorites when there's so many bars in the same area? Somebody key in the car. What's that got to do with Favorites? The gentleman who ran off the two students then sat in the auto zone a couple of Friday and Saturday nights, and he watched drunk students coming out of Favorites and going down Lortz Lane and going into this particular area. So it is. And the key cars?
Yes.
Right. It's your opinion that if Favorites wasn't there, the students still would, they would all stop drinking? Never mind.
All right, thank you, sir. Next one.
Yes, Chris Forrest, President of York Road Partnership.
Can you talk to us a little louder?
Christopher Forrest, President of York Road Partnership. We organization that covers from 39th Street to the community line. So all the communities represented here, we kind of oversee and organize with. There's some things quickly I can acknowledge that Bill Henry couldn't, as far as speaking for all the communities in agreement to the concern with the Favorites. They're in 100% agreement from the testimony that you're getting today. In regards to reaching out to Jeff Evans, going into my second year of presidency, I at least met with Jeff twice, one with Bill Henry to talk about concerns that have been identified, as well as with Robert Wayner from Murphy's. We met to talk about concerns and how to address the concerns from the community. So to not acknowledge that he wasn't aware or these concerns exist. I just want to negate that. There was concerns addressed. We try to make an arrangement for an MOU with Favorites, which they did not proceed to make with us, but Murphy's did. It was identified of the drinking underage. We did recommend a scanner, which was way before the summer, which they didn't get. They felt they didn't need it. As far as one of the meetings we've had as in regards to that, that their gentlemen can pick out IDs better than any scanner. That was specifically stated. So what I wanted to be here, and their testimony is more stronger than mine, is to say that we did reach out to Favorites in regards to trying to address community concerns. And they do have a pattern, and when I came into presidency, that was the biggest topic of the concerns with Favorites. Getting Craig Fest down, as well as ongoing known underage drinking. As you see, I'm not surprised. A lot of people are surprised with the 100 and something underage. I'm not, because it is a practice. This is not an accident, so I'm not surprised that this took place. I don't have the specific dates, but it was within a year and a half that I met with, at least with twice. These charges are after that. These charges were prior to this probably taking place if some action would have been taken.
See if you have any questions.
They stopped doing Craig Fest, correct?
They stopped doing Craig Fest because it was mandated, not because they chose to. And I'm just answering. I thought I did.
They stopped, correct?
As far as I know, they stopped.
When was the last time you met them?
I don't have the specific date. I can get you the dates. I met with, again, at least twice. I know I specifically met with Jeff, once with Councilman Henry, and also with Robert Wayner from Murphy's.
But as to these two incidents, you have no personal knowledge, is that correct?
I was not involved in direct these incidents.
All right, thank you. Call your next witness.
Sir, my name is Becky Witt. I am an attorney representing the York Road Partnership, whom Chris is the president of, and I just wanted, I can, have my 2 minutes. I also live in the community. Sure, I also live in the community. I just wanted to say a few things. I wanted to echo Councilman Henry when he said that over-serving underage students is not a one-time mistake like we see so often here at the Liquor Board. This is their business model. They make their money from being one of the bars on York Road, the main bar on York Road, where 18 to 20-year-olds can get served without a hassle. The commissioners may have noticed that during the raid in October, essentially 80% of the bar was underage, which shows that even 21 and 22-year-olds apparently have too much respect for themselves to drink at Favorites. These licensees are exploiting the poor decision-making skills of these young adults and putting them in serious danger of being hit by a car, alcohol poisoning, assault. They just don't care about the safety of their patrons, and that's why we're asking for a revocation of this license. Mr. Kadensky is correct. There are no previous findings of responsibility for violations on this record. No one is more aware of that than us. We have been bringing complaint after complaint to the Liquor Board, the police department, Loyola, for years, and nothing has happened, and we don't know why.
In the past?
Yes, in the past.
Because I don't recall.
No, not since the new administration, but in the past. And we don't know the precise reason for this failure to do the basic duties of the agency, but it should be clear to everyone that the agency has failed. And a suspension is just not a strong enough penalty for violations of this magnitude. And I just, I wanted to also submit a sign-in sheet of community members who support revocation who didn't necessarily get to testify today, but who are present.
You want to see the,
I'm not objecting to it.
no, do you see it? You want to see it? I'd mark it.
I just wanted to close by saying that there's been a lot of talk about the scanner, and from our point of view, the scanner is not really that important. The violation is for serving underage people. It doesn't say anything about an exception for if you have a scanner. If you can't operate your bar legally, then you need to get out of the business. And that's personal responsibility. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're saying that their business model, you know how much money they make there?
I don't.
You know how much they pay in rent? How many employees they have?
I'm not sure.
You know what, well, there, she has their business model. What the business model for business is you gotta make money, is that correct?
Yes.
You don't know what they make at all, do you?
I don't know what they make. No. I don't go to Favorites.
All right, thank you. Any other That's it?
Your Honor, I'm just going to move into evidence as a copy of letters. I've provided Mr. Kudinski with copies of them. So just letters.
Ahead of time, and I think it's improper to have that in the file for the commissioners to see before the case is even tried along with the evidence.
All right, and we're now on the issue of punishment.
And one more thing. Those. One more. So those are the letters from the community. I also have a letter from Scott Schellenberger, Your Honor. One dated 2011 and one from 2015.
All right, folks, I think a time comes for me to make my.
Well, I got some people too.
You have some? No, I didn't know that.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You gave them 20.
Go ahead,
minutes.
absolutely.
Mr. Sam Daniels.
Really?
Same rule, 2 minutes.
All right.
State your name, how much, 20 minutes? You gave them 20 minutes?
2 minutes and 2 minutes.
State your name and address.
Samuel T. Daniels Jr., 1825 Rambling Ridge Lane, apartment 302, Baltimore 21209.
Associated with the liquor board in what capacity since 2010?
In 2010, the executive secretary.
Were you also chief inspector at one time?
Yes.
And his favorites came under your watch, is that correct?
Particularly as chief inspector. Commission didn't particularly want me out doing investigations after I became executive secretary.
What has been your experience with favorites and how they cooperate and
Why don't you lead them so you can get your, because I'm going to hold you to the 2 minutes.
I got 20 total. Just tell me I got 20.
No, you've got 2 per person.
Well, I'm not talking about that.
Generally, in spite of all the complaints, history with CUD, because I'm a member of the county, or was a member of the County Underage Drinking Coalition, the letter from Schellenberger and so forth, every time that we mounted an investigation, probably after about 2003, we were unsuccessful. I know the chairman himself, in terms of finding people who were underage in the establishment. I've been there multiple times. I used to live around the corner from it. It actually, not that I don't think they serve people underage, they just did not make the test of what I consider proper enforcement and investigation. I'm surprised at the paucity of detail in the report dated 11 December relative to the event of October 25th. For an event of that magnitude, to reduce it to one paragraph is beyond my pale. I mean, I've handled scores of sweeps, that kind of operation, hundreds of control buys, and the lack of detail is bothersome. Now, no doubt there were people in there. I also, in all the years that I've worked, have witnessed people arriving at places drunk. So if you're just catching them coming out, you can infer they were drinking there. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But the reports don't, and what I saw, don't provide substantive enough information in that regard, with the exception of the 4 December report.
All right, questions?
You were chief investigator in 2007, or you were deputy executive secretary?
I was, it depends on what part. There was one point where I was both.
Okay. And you conducted investigations from, at least into Craig's, since how far back?
1999.
And not once did you find any violations since 1999?
I believe once. I don't have access to my records from then because I'm no longer at the agency.
Understood.
But I believe once we got 2 people where we would get scores of people at all the other clubs that existed along York Road.
And you brought those before the board?
Absolutely.
But since then, since 2007 on 2013, when you left the agency, you had no issues with Craig's favorites.
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, you had no violations coming out of Craig's favorites.
None that I was personally involved in, and with inspectors assigned, and I believe even running control by operations, they produced nothing that I saw, and therefore no charges were brought. Now, issues, yes, I dealt with Councilman Henry over the Craig's Fest, and I think there's a subtle characterization that has a greater than subtle impact. we didn't deny them additional one-day licenses. They voluntarily decided not to pursue them. Now, I think had they gone forward to pursue the license, they would have been denied.
So in all your time doing your investigation since 2007 going forward, you never found any kind of violation?
The agency's investigations, not mine. That's correct. That's correct.
Which you oversaw?
Yes, except to familiarize you with state law. The inspection division was managed by the chairman and the chief inspector. And any attempt that I may have had to affect certain outcomes in some instances was controlled and or denied by the commission. So no, I did not run the inspection division.
Okay, so it was just dumb luck, I guess, in a sense, that these 100 kids, in your opinion, were drinking on October 25th, and it was way out of whack with the past.
I didn't say anything like that.
Okay, no further questions.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, any other witnesses? What time do we actually have to be out of here?
What time do we have to be out of here?
We go off the air, but we don't have a time. We have it until 5.
Oh, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Stephen William Brennan, on Glenbrook Drive, Phoenix now.
And what's your relationship to the property?
I've owned the property for the last 25 years.
All right, and what has been your experience with Ben and Tim Inc. and the operators of that establishment?
Well, specifically Jeff Evans, who's been there since 2000. He's been an excellent tenant, has taken care of all of his responsibilities, and we've not had any problems with him whatsoever.
Have you got any complaints from the community as the owner of the property?
None.
And along with that, he has a lease there that he's obligated on, is that correct?
He does. He has another 5 years, and then renewals after that.
Okay, and what's the amount of rent that's
The base is $3,500 per month.
Okay.
And then on top of that, he pays his insurance and taxes.
I have no further questions.
Okay, so he's an excellent tenant because he pays his rent on time, correct?
In that sense.
Yes. And have you ever been to Craig's Favorites? Do you ever stand by the door and check IDs, Craig's Favorites?
I can't stay up that late.
Okay, so you've never checked an ID at Favorites?
I have nothing to do with it.
You don't know about their operations?
I have nothing to do with their business. I talked to them about mode of operation, what's happening on York Road in that area. I'm very familiar with the history of it, all the way back to when it was a bank, and then it happened to be called the Irish Derby after that. We bought it just shortly after that period of time. We've had a lot of communications with the communities back 20, 25 years ago. Our communication with Jeff has been along lines of how he communicates with Loyola, and specifically about the idea of the IDs being dated.
So you've never, you said, he's been a good tenant, you've been back since 25 years, so since 1999, I think you've been familiar with the area and owned the property for the last 25 years. So, just one, so Joan Flynn, who you heard testify earlier today, said she's been here at least since 1999, at least 11 years she's been having problems, and Craig's Favorites has been a concern of yours. As the owner, you've been there, has she ever reached out to you? Have you ever reached out to her? Have you even heard of these accusations or concerns voiced by Loyola?
I've never gotten any reports from the police or any of
No.
Call your next witness. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, I just had 2 questions.
If I could very, very quickly,
All right.
is there a break-even point in that lease by which they pay you additional sum if they make a certain amount of money?
No.
And have you ever been notified of any claim against you as a property owner for any damages done at Craig's since
None.
this man has been the owner?
None.
All right, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Jeff,
He's gonna.
Mr. Evans, now, you've been a licensee since the year 2000. How many employees do you have?
It varies at any given time, anywhere from 25 to 30 plus.
All right, and how many, and you pay rent to Mr. Brennan, is that correct?
That's correct.
And it'd be fair to say that in the information that was given to the board, other than the year 2000, you have not been charged, been before this board, and convicted of any type of offense, is that correct?
That's correct.
The only thing that was on the record was back in year 2000, which is at Article 2B, Section 12108D, in which there was a finding and the fine was suspended, is that correct?
That is correct.
And since that time, you haven't had any protests and renewal? Have you met with the community as indicated before, is that right?
That's correct.
I have no further questions.
All right, the time, any other witness? the time has come for my final decision with the board, and it's my obligation to begin. In this particular case, I've already ruled as to what I believe and don't believe, and I don't believe a great deal of the testimony with respect to the checking of people who enter this establishment. And I am totally convinced, not only as to the accuracy of the finding of responsibilities on the charges, as I've already said, but I'm also convinced that this place is an absolute detriment to the community in every respect, and that it's been going on since this present ownership became established in 2000. One of the things that I've noticed that's so unusual is for the state's attorney of Baltimore County to actually write 2 letters concerning the effects that this bar has been having on the community for a long time, not only for Loyola, but the University of Towson. And he then writes another letter with respect to these charges, in which he says he stands by all the long elicited problems that they've had with this establishment over these years. That was the letter. The first letter was written in 2010, and the second letter was written just before this hearing. So I find that, without going into detail, because I adopt the testimony as support of my current decision, of the people who have come up here complaining about this bar, I believe all of them, and I also find that the testimony is cooperative, especially the person who lives right nearby, and all the terrible things that have happened around his house. And as I've said many times, having liquor and distributing it is a privilege, not a right. And so this bar in this residential neighborhood on York Road is a detriment to the operation, to detriment to the living experience of people who live on or near or nearby this establishment, and therefore my decision is to close it completely, period.
Well, I listened to all the testimony, and when you have this type of accusation placed against you, it seems to me if I was going to defend myself, not only would I try to defend myself against the charges, but I will also have a backup plan, some type of corrective actions, just in case things didn't go my way. And I didn't hear any of that. And, you know, it just makes me feel that this thing is about the money. The bottom line is how much money can I make? How much alcohol can I push into these young kids? And there's no, what is going to happen to my establishment if I don't have this clientele? Do I stop them from coming in? Obviously, the answer is no. So, listen, thinking about all of this and what the judge have also already elaborated on, I just don't feel comfortable with being a part of allowing these kids to have an establishment that they can go in again and not be supervised properly and be fed as much alcohol as they can buy. I, too, feel that this establishment needs to be closed.
I join in first the finding of responsibility. There are 3 charges before us. I find you responsible. I agree with the finding of responsibility on all 3. I agree with the decision to close this establishment. I would not, I don't think that there's been a request for a stay, but if there were, there would not be inclination to grant the stay. And the reason is because there is such harm that has been done by the operations of Favorites, and I do believe that it is part of their business model to push in as many, the dollar cover charge is minor compared to the volume of alcohol that it's sold. It clearly is their intent to push in as many students as possible. By their very own testimony, they cater to Loyola students. That is their market. It is their intent and their plan and their design to bring in the Loyola students and to have them consume as much as alcohol as possible. The fact, I mean, there was plenty of testimony about the physical impacts on the students. I found all of the witnesses on the testifying on behalf of closure or the impact to be very, very credible. They're people that are part of this community. They've been here before. The fact that there were students that were vomiting, that were having physical effects of alcohol, there was no question but that alcohol was consumed. We had 4 gentlemen who, sure, they didn't want to testify. They would invoke their Fifth Amendment right not to testify against themselves or to incriminate themselves, but they testified or they told the police officers that night that they indeed had consumed alcohol, and there could be no better statement of that other than the student who said, "Oh shit, I've been caught." They were caught. They were caught, and they admitted it. They were all described as cooperative. They were, did not try to run away. They didn't try to get away from what they had done. They admitted what they had done. So there's no question that this bar has had such a gross negative impact on the community. It's not at all mild. It's severe. The stories of how the residents of not just Homeland, but all the communities around this bar have had to live with the impact is shocking. It's shocking to the conscience, and it's unconscionable. And no one, and I've said it before, no one should have to live like this. No one should have to live like this, and it can be stopped by shutting favorites. And so I totally support that decision.
All right, I want to say, to make sure we have it accurate, that the closure begins immediately for 104 days until the time that all the licenses come up for renewal before this board in April 30th, or the final day of April, as I recall it. Also, this board has a policy of opposing the lifting of our closures by the Circuit Court of Baltimore City or anybody following the actions that we have. The law says that our decisions are presumed correct, and I believe that if it is appealed, that it should go to, after the testimony has been reduced to writing, so that the appellate judge, where I used to sit, can actually see that and read about the testimony that has been given today before this board, and at that point decide whether or not we are correct and whether or not it should be changed, and not to lift the closure and then wait for the testimony to be written up and then later make a determination at a later date. So folks, we stand in adjournment. Thank you very much.
Good job as usual. Good job as usual.